yes, Gilbert has worked across BT for around 25, 26 years. Gilbert now is working as a consultant. So yeah, a lot of varied experience. Obviously studied at university. I believe it was on artificial intelligence. So yeah, I'm really excited to hear more on your thoughts on that topic. And obviously, yeah, if any of you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A or the chat function, and we'd be more than happy to answer them. And we're going to keep this session very interactive and chatty between the two of us. So hopefully you can walk away with tips and things that will help you in your career. So, Gilbert, where shall we start? I know obviously there's a variety of questions that people will probably be interested in. I guess a starting point for sure is your actual career path in OR. What like drew you to OR initially, and how did you even get started in OR and learn about it?
Thank you very much, Caitlin. So my journey started during my undergraduate studies. So I was exposed to our techniques, both hard and soft. And I remember being exposed to soft systems methodology at the time, and also, some of the hard OR techniques, exact methods, and the like. And the approach during the undergraduate studies was to be able to think holistically when it comes to problem solving. So my lecturers and tutors at the time were keen on how we looked at problems end to end. Think about the costs, benefits, analysis, the trade-offs, and the like. And I found that very useful. So these tools enabled me. I mean, of course, I did my PhD and they were applied there. But when I started working, my initial role was in R&D. So R&D, most of the time, there isn't a defined initial stages, not clearly defined scope when it comes to the problem that is being solved. So you have to iteratively work through these. So I found my OR skills come to be very useful during those sessions. And then when it came to actually deploying the outcomes of my capabilities, the R&D projects, getting people on board, thinking about the costs and what may be referred to as non-functionals within software engineering, were also key elements that are applied there. So these projects, typically in organizations, they are transformation projects because we are either transforming the way processes are executed, and so forth. And it requires more than just the models, but also how you bring people along. I think the OR toolkit offers us, a lot of tools in there to make sure that projects that we deliver are successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, yeah, there must be so many decisions in terms of what are the right projects as well. And I can imagine that being quite difficult when you're starting your career and at the start of it. So I guess, in terms of when you started that, and like you mentioned, the projects that you were working on, what did your day or week look like for you? So as a practitioner starting your career, what was a day like and what was a week like? Did you find there was certain problems or issues that you had to solve? How was that?
Yeah, thanks, Caitlin. So typically, as a practitioner, there will be three flavors of, let me use the term deliverables, okay, that you'll be working on. Training models that you've delivered. Yeah, so that's in the past. work that has been
Right.
delivered in the past. You are
Yeah.
maintaining them, yeah, ensuring that they are still fit for purpose. Um, if it's forecasting models, um, case in point, that depends on a particular construct and data set. Okay, um, representing different regions. In my case, looking at how we forecast demand across the regions within the UK. Um, Initially, you could say that at the time of developing the model, let's say there were 10 regions, but there was a reorganization and then it became 8. So your input to the forecasting model has changed. Okay, so you have to revisit what you've done in the past and change that accordingly. So that is one. The second type of work would be what you are currently working on. So this could be new projects, okay, that require your attention,
Hmm.
developing new models and so on. And then the third element will be what is to come, because you always have to fill the hopper, as it were, ensure that you have a backlog of work coming. So that will be more interaction with stakeholders and the like. So on any given day or within a week, you will be focusing on one of these three or all three. And then there are project briefings. So related to these capabilities, so if it's fixing faults or updated models, you'll have to brief the appropriate stakeholders. So there will be a lot of time preparing what needs to be presented on the status of projects. There'll be technical deep dives. Sorry, want to ask a question?
Yeah. How did you find, like, early on in your career, how did you find briefing those stakeholders, and how did you find presenting the data once you had it to those stakeholders?
So this, I mean, of course, I never worked alone. It was a team work, and that is the case with most of these initiatives. So I will probably there is a whole deck, part of within the briefing, it will be what is the key elements from a model's point of view. You look at, is it performing as it should? Okay. If not, why? Or what was the problem that we're trying to fix? How far have we gone? What are the current results? And in terms of it's
Mm.
understanding the language of those you are presenting to. So this could be, if it's a finance person, then they care about revenue, they care about cost. So you want to make sure that you frame the presentation in that light. If it's an operational person, they care about productivity, and waste and so on and so forth. You frame the presentation in that light. So it's understanding who the stakeholders are, understanding what they care about, and use the appropriate language. Okay, so uh, some stakeholders may be interested in um, they like reams of data on others just want you to synthesize that and provide the findings and so on. So
Hmm.
understanding who the stakeholders are is key. You know. So that it's on the presentation bits. And of course, there are other activities that occur during the week or a typical day. There'll be technical deep dives. So this mainly with your peers or within the team that you work with, getting feedback on the model, the accuracy, what works, what doesn't work, what can we do to improve the model and the like. And then other things like team meetings, classic, there you find out about other projects within the team or across the wider team. There'll be one-to-ones with your line manager, and if you're a manager, with your team. There will also be training courses for yourself because every organization has training courses that you have to keep up with. So you'll be involved with that. So those were some of the yeah, activities that or some of the activities that you will be encountering on any typical day. Yeah.
Yeah, Fantastic. That's really insightful actually. And I think also, when you're starting your career and dealing with, like you said, the data side, but also like line managers and all these different areas that perhaps, you're not necessarily taught at university, then it can be quite challenging. Um, I mean, in terms of projects that you've worked on, what would you say are some of the most interesting ones? What interesting projects even? Have you worked on in like across OR? And do you think the OR methods that you learned benefited those projects and helped with them?
Yeah, so typically, I mean, problems you'll be solving in industry um, would reflect the objectives of the organization, and they are fairly finite. Okay, so either
Yep.
you are looking at reducing costs, so cost savings is a big thing for most organizations. So, I mean, so your project may be aligned to a cost saving initiative. Revenue growth for profit making industries, yeah, organizations. That it's also a classic goal. You will also be looking at cost avoidance. There are projects
Mm,
that may not be saving costs, but you want to avoid costs. There are quite a lot of projects in that category. And then there is a four-dimension customer service. So if you are serving customers, ensuring that you are delivering value to the customer, that it's a key one. Um, Looking at improving SLAs, meeting SLAs, and so on. And then there is another dimension on regulatory compliance. Any organization has to, adhere to some form of, you know, regulation. Okay, even
mm,
the OR Society as a charity accountable to the Charity Commission.
mm-hmm.
If you work in telco, there is a regulator, the Ofcom in the UK. If you work in the financial services, there is the Financial Conduct Authority, and so on and so forth. So there is
Yeah.
always a regulatory dimension to the work. You will do as an OR practitioner. And then, I mean, more recently, a lot of focus on sustainability goals. Okay, so the organization may have to, if they present their reports, be able to demonstrate, okay, how they are achieving their sustainability goals. And then, of course, there is employee related
Mm-hmm.
work. I mean, this comes probably diversity or employee satisfaction and so on. So these are the broad categories of problems that you'll be
Mm-hmm.
solving. Okay, and it's very important to be able to know um, which category, okay, your problem falls into or aligns with. So I have had a privilege to work across all these. Okay, and I'll just use yeah, I'll give an example of one you asked. Which well, one or two. Let me put it
Mm-hmm.
that way. So I worked for BT for many years, and as a it is a telco, as you know, and but also the second largest fleet operator in the UK. Most people didn't know that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm,
So optimizing the way we utilize these vehicles was a key concern because it impacts so many things. Fuel usage, yeah, because you have wasted journeys. It also impacts the way we deliver service to our customers. Okay, so many years
absolutely.
ago, many years ago, there was a situation where we had engineers driving past one another. So this actually led to one of the presidents. I BT winning the president's medal many years ago. Engineers driving past one another, inefficient. So it required the use of optimization techniques. It required the use of forecasting to provide visibility of demand, and then we go about optimizing the way we utilize these resources. So in this case, it's the vehicles, and then of course you have engineers who drive the vehicles. Same principle applying to asset management, okay? Because we had quite a lot of assets. Again, these will be tools or equipment required for delivering service or our techniques, ensuring that we optimize their utilization and was key. So that was an area of interest. I worked on that for many years. As I mentioned, second largest fleet operator, even when it came to transitioning to electric vehicles, okay, using OR techniques like simulation to understand mileage, okay. When we started trials of this, this transition to EV, charging policies, yeah. Again, how do you schedule who can access a charging point at what time, and so on. And then probably the last one, or the second example I will cite here. And again, most people didn't know BT consumes nearly 1% of UK's electricity. Okay, and a huge part of this is legacy network. So you have 3G, which was a legacy network, and we needed to decommission 3G because we now have 4G, 5G, and so on. The goal is to be able to decommission it without impacting service, impacting coverage. Of course, this required a lot of analysis. It required a lot of trade-offs, modeling of different scenarios. Okay, so scenario modeling played a key part there, to inform the plan of decommissioning. And it went successfully. There were no complaints. I'm very pleased that was decommissioned without a complaint. So those are some of the initiatives. So I would say, first of all, know the broad area of work that you are, the strategic theme, let me put it that way, what concerns the organization, that and your contribution to it. So is it cost saving? Is it revenue growth? Is it looking at sustainability goals, cost avoidance, and so on and so forth? Have the understanding of the strategic brief, and then that should shape the way you go about modeling the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're obviously starting your career, it must be really rewarding when then those projects and areas that you're working on, you receive positive feedback or can see the impact. And I guess like you mentioned, the OR Society, it's similar here, seeing the impact of what we do and how that sort of shapes things. So I think that's really interesting and such a good take on it. I think alternatively, I obviously work on the sort of event side, but as I know from OR now, the models themselves can be so complex. So I guess how do you go about explaining the values and findings of an OR project to perhaps someone senior to you or a client who doesn't have background in the field, which I definitely can relate to. So how would you approach that when you have all that information but need to sort of guide someone on that?
Sure, Caitlin. I think what the advice I would give is always approach models through the lens of auditability. So think, just say to yourself, this model will be audited at any point in time. Okay. What does that mean? You want to make sure that it's properly documented. Yeah. You also think about it from the lens of, the decisions that you are making, document those. The data that you are using, document those. the assumptions that you are making, document those, okay, and be able to justify by them, because this will help when you are explaining the model to your stakeholders. And they are different, as you mentioned, different levels of understanding when it comes to OR. So I mentioned earlier on, know your audience, know your stakeholders. Okay. If it's a CFO, know what they care about. So they are interested in value realization. They are interested in profits, so on and so forth. And speak their language. Spend time to know how you frame the outcome of the model in that light. Okay. If it's a COO, a chief operating officer, they care about the resilience of the estate. Make sure that you frame it as such. If it's a chief marketing officer, they care about customer personalization or whatever it is. So know your stakeholder, know the language they speak, and ensure that you go about framing it properly. So, for example, I within I mentioned the field engineering space, the operational teams there cared a lot about waste. Okay. So the question is, how do you go about demonstrating this to them? One of the OR tools is process mining. So you map out all the processes. There are tools out there to do this. You ingest the relevant data sets, you map out the processes, and it becomes very obvious where there are repeats, where there are wasted journeys. Okay. Maybe a customer, an engineer visits a customer multiple times or whatever it is. You can see that visually. So visualization is a very powerful tool when it comes to communication. Okay. So process mining is one. Simulation is another. Okay. And I remember a capability, an optimization capability that we deployed, and our stakeholders at the time weren't so convinced of the output. So we needed to simulate this. So simulated a schedule, looked at the objective functions, okay, got them engaged to interact with a tool and see the impact, okay, of the changes that they were making. And that definitely brought them along. So what I would say is, again, think of your, when building your models from the standpoint of auditability, okay, that it will be audited, so documentation is key. Think of how you will visualize what you are doing, because that helps engender confidence. And then also think about the language of your stakeholders and frame the output in that light. So if it's I don't know, let's say that wasted visits or whatever it is, at the end of the day, the objective for the operational teams is productivity. They want to know how many more jobs would an engineer be able to do by not wasting journeys. Okay. So you present it that way and you demonstrate how you came up with that outcome. So that is what I've done to date, and I think that it seems to work.
Yeah, definitely. And I think being able, and I also have learned this from the other side, from working in the OR Society and not necessarily being technical trained, but being able to talk language both sides. So be able, it's also up to your line manager or, who you're working with, whether that's a client, to also understand terminology and ask about it. So, you can work on that together to get the best results. So I think that's also important. But absolutely, if, like you said, if you're dealing with someone who, is senior in finances, then know how to tweak what you're doing to say, how it's going to impact finances, whether that's positive, negative, what are the risk projections. So I think that's really important. And not even just in OR, for any job
That's
and
true.
your career, you should be, working out how to communicate with line managers, clients, and and you speak to everyone differently, right? Like everyone needs different types of information. And I think, yeah, so important in operational research to be able to take your research and data and get people to see it and understand like the impact it can make, because it changes so much in organizations and isn't sometimes talked about enough. So I think, yeah, thank you for that insight. That's really, really good. And I guess, you know, in your actual full experience of what you've now done in OR over decades and data science and artificial intelligence, what would you say is the key difference between solving a textbook OR problem and then solving one in the real world? So if you're solving it in a textbook, or you're looking at perhaps a messy real organizational issue, how would you say those are different, and how would you perhaps solve both of them?
Sure, this is a very good question because I remember painfully, my first presentation. So I was building some SQL queries, and I did the textbook way. Applied all the constraints and so on and so forth. Um, it took about 15 minutes for the results to come out. And this was during a presentation, so embarrassing. I remember that. So afterwards, one of my, you know, seniors said, "Look, you don't do this. Okay, that is textbook. You don't. You have to remove all the constraints." So I think that when it comes to operational deployment, what you need to care about is cost of deploying and running the solution. You need to care about speed of response. And most textbook methods wouldn't, highlight this. Speed of response is key. Okay. You need to care about explainability as well. I think I touched on that in the previous question. Like auditing, being able to explain your outputs, it's very
Mhm.
important. Okay. So when it comes to optimization, and in our context, it was scheduling of field engineers. So what could be coming in? Okay. Uh, you have a choice to use exact methods or meta heuristics. Exact methods will give you perfect answer. Yeah, you will get to that. It will take time. Do we have the time for that? No. So we opted for meta heuristic. There was a trade-off there. Okay. One, to be able to get to a good, reasonable response um, within acceptable time frame, because there were incoming jobs as well during the day that needed to be rescheduled. So I would say that textbook is good because you need to understand the theory, but when it comes to operational deployment, the other considerations. Okay, I mean in engineering terms, they bucket them as non-functionals. Okay, so of course you have the functional bit and then the non-functional. So things like speed of response and so on, cost. Um, so you have to consider both because it should be able to work within an operational settings. And of course, sometimes I mentioned the meta heuristics as opposed to exact methods. So sometimes, again, because of the nature of the industry, if it's a legal requirement and you're not in a position to be able to explain what you are doing properly, you go for a model that you can do so. So there are always trade-offs. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think both of them really lend into each other. So obviously processes that you learn that might be considered textbook based actually
Mm-hmm.
can be beneficial in real world projects, mixed with uh, methodologies that you learn through your career then, and things in real life, I guess, and blending them both in. So I'll soon go to some questions in the Q&A, but just a couple more questions that I think are important. So beyond obviously core OR techniques that you're taught in university, what would you say is the single most important soft skill that you think has contributed to you able to have the career you have and the success that you have?
Thanks a lot, Caitlin. I mean, this I can't overemphasize this point enough. Collaboration, stakeholder management, bringing people along. People can make or break you, okay? And understanding how to bring people along, it's key, okay? On all levels, on all levels. I mean, sometimes it could be, it's maybe easier to win the senior stakeholders, okay, because they see it. But you could face a lot of resistance when working with those on the ground. So ensuring that you know there are tools for doing this. There are tools for doing this. First of all, make sure that you build an alliance. Okay, way ahead as you know, starting your career. Ensure that you get to know the people within the organization. Offer to help. You know, the thing is, if you sow into someone's work or someone's life, it becomes very easy for them to support your cause when you need them to do so. Okay, so that it's what I would definitely encourage you to make sure that you build coalitions, you network effectively, get to know people, get to know their problems, and be committed to looking at how you can help them solve those problems, because the payback is huge when it comes to you trying to deploy your own models. Even among the team, your team members, you know, it's not always advisable to stand your ground. Sometimes you just have to let people win, as it were, so that, yes, for the greater outcome and of the deliverable. So stakeholder management, collaboration, very, very important. I've managed people who were technically brilliant but poor at people management, and it didn't take them far. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, really, really important points on what to look out for, and again, like you said, having that balance of being able to yeah, I guess communicate well with people and also work on data and have that side is really important. I guess what would you say in terms of continuous learning or professional development? Have you pursued like staying current in operational research in ways like that? Why do you think professional development and continuing to learn is so important for people in their career?
Well, it is very important, and I think that's why we have the OR Society. This initiative is an example of continuous professional development. If you really want to stay current, you don't have a choice in that matter. Okay, you have to develop yourself. Why? Because techniques are developing. We have newer problems coming up. Newer research. So that goes on. Societies, professional bodies are a great place to be, because what they do is to synthesize what you need. Because there's a whole lot out there. Okay, but having it simplified for you to consume is key, and that's what your society does. Okay, ensuring that you have those there. So I take advantage of that. I take advantage of research. I mean, again, that it's the beauty of the oral society. So whether you are an academic or whether you're a practitioner, you have both, ends of the spectrum to consume from. Okay, there are podcasts out there as well. There are conferences. The oral society does that. tech talks, just consume as much as possible. But I would say, yeah, again, the society, it's a good place to consume and any material that would help you develop your careers and point you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, building your network and going to events and, special interest groups, all those type of areas do really help you to meet other people as well and see what trends are happening, how you can learn from each other. So yeah, really good points. And I guess moving on just before I go to the Q&A, a last one which I think is really important. So if you were an OR student who was, say, graduating today, what three pieces, if you could only give three pieces of advice, would you give them to make themselves more employable and successful in their first job?
Sure. I actually like um, the mission of the OR site. I think it encapsulates this very well for me. I was giving a talk somewhere and I used it. Being so it's value, visible, vibrant. Okay. First of all, think of the value you bring to the table. Always think of that. What are you bringing to the table in terms of the models, in your place of work? How do you distinguish yourself by the skills and the value that you are contributing to the organization? The second is visibility. And this is where you need to make sure that, it's not going to come to you. You value precedes visibility. So if you do something good, you need to shout about it. Okay. You need to let others know. And then, of course, staying current. We talked about that. Vibrant. Being in a vibrant community is another way. Okay. Learning from others. So I would say that these three V's, as it were, think about them, look at how you can demonstrate value, work on that, look at how you can make yourself visible, very important, and be part of a vibrant community. You are here on our ORS podcast session, Careers Week. Continue doing that even when you start your career. Join the society, take advantage of what the society offers. Okay, so that would be my advice.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you, Gilbert, for going into such details through your career. I think being able to talk like this really helps bring the real world information to students as well. So thank you so much for your time and going into so many in-depth details about that. There was so much good stuff that students can learn from that. So I'm just going to go over to the Q&A for the last few minutes and work through a couple of the questions. So if I start with Jim's question on, so how has involvement with the OR Society been valuable to you in your career? You mentioned conferences, which sounds great, but are there any other examples as well?
Events. I mean, the beauty of the society is that you have very experienced people. You have from all sectors. Okay, not just academia, industry, variety. It's very varied. So you learn a lot from all these areas. If you've been to the UR conference, you see the breadth of events, talks that are available to participants. So I would say that's one. The society is also, you know, you have the newsletters, you have the journals. Okay, again, keeps you abreast of what is going on. There are other sort of related events with other societies that you can also take advantage of as well. Training programs, well, on offer there, training programs are there, and opportunities to also um, exercise your gifts or give back, if I'll put it that way. So you have OR in education, you have other initiatives that offer you the opportunity, okay, to use your skills to network and so on. So yeah, I found all these very useful. Yeah.
Great. And what OR career opportunities are there for someone studying perhaps MSc Logistics and Supply Chain Management, would you say?
Oh, huge, huge, huge. Of course, OR, AI, it's sort of merging. So there are lots of opportunities out there. Logistics is a huge thing. It is a huge thing. You could apply optimization there. You could apply. I mean, within it's more AI, but there are OR implication, machine learning algorithms in there for logistics. You have to think about forecasting. You have to think about predicting demand. You have to think about optimizing the way you utilize resources. Okay, so all these things play a key role in there for anyone studying in that field. And then, of course, you could go into some of these consulting firms, not just those who actually operate the fleet. Yeah.
Perfect. And last question that we have time for is how would you say is the best way to showcase OR skills and knowledge to potential employees even?
Again, it goes back to the role that you're applying for, but I think being cognizant of the fact that, and most of the time they are interviewing you because of your technical skills. They know you can do it. But what you should add is that holistic way of addressing problem solving. Okay, so not just the hard OR bit, but the softer bits as well. How you bring people along, how you engage stakeholders, and so on. Some of the things that we touched on earlier on. So that end-to-end bit, it's very important. Yeah.
Brilliant. Gilbert, thank you so much for taking the time to answer so many questions as well. There has been so much engagement, and there is still a couple of questions in the Q&A that I think you can type back to if you do have time before you leave the call. But yeah, if you're happy or would like to get in touch with any students, just let me know. And likewise, if you have any further questions for Gilbert, I'm sure I can email them over to him and he'll be more than happy to send back or advise on it. So yeah, thank you so much again, Gilbert, for all your insights. And yeah, I will move on to the next session shortly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gilbert. Hello, Hugh.
Hi there.
Hi. So yes, so now we'll be moving on to the next presentation. I personally am really excited about this. So this will be on actual early careers inside Atkins's and through their graduate programs. So the structure on that. And yeah, I imagine lots of you will be thinking about internships and graduate programs. So yeah, I'll pass over to you. And please let me know if you have any questions. And again, put questions in the Q&A and I'll come back to them at the end. And thank you so much for taking the time to do this as well and speak to OR students today.
That's okay. I've got some slides. Shall I share my screen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you should be able to share those.
Okay, let me do that.
And I'll also spotlight you for everyone. So you're the focus. And I'll remove mine as well.
Can you see those slides?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, it's not on the full screen bit yet, but I can see the screen and the slides.
Are they big enough? Do you want me to put it on full screen? I can do that if that's helpful.
Yeah, that would be amazing if you can. Perfect. That looks fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
I unfortunately can't see anybody now, so so if you want to stop me at any point, just shout out.
And any questions, just put as well in the Q&A, and we can also answer them. And yeah, it is just initials, so yeah, you're not missing too many faces other than mine, so don't worry.
Okay. I'll try to keep it below half an hour so that there's time for questions at the end. So yeah, but by all means interrupt me during the session if there's anything you want to ask as we go along. Okay, great. So yeah, my name is Dr. Hugh James, and I'm going to talk to you today about early careers at a company called Atkins, which is a company that I currently work for. High-level agenda for the presentation today. So first of all, I'll talk a little bit about who we are as a company and what we do. Then I'll talk a bit about why I think you should choose to come and work for us. And then finally, I'll talk a little bit about the application process. Just to double check, actually, so I'm on slide 3, so everyone can see a slide called Who is Atkins Very Honest? Okay,
yes, yes.
Just to check.
We
Okay.
can. No, that's
Brilliant.
fine.
So who is Atkins Borealis? So we are a global engineering services and nuclear organization. We have over 38,000 employees in over 50 countries around the world. And we work on a variety of things, including consulting, strategy and advisory. So this is the bit that I work in. But there's also engineering design, project and program management, project delivery, operations and maintenance, capital, and nuclear decommissioning. So a wide variety of different areas that we work in. If you were to join the company, you'd be working in an embedded OR team, and you'd be working on OR, delivering complex engineering and transformation projects. So in a nutshell, we're a civil engineering company, but we do a sort of variety of things in the civil engineering space that wouldn't necessarily be considered sort of classic civil engineering. So a bit more information about what we do. So I've got some blurb here. From designing entire cities to delivering nuclear power stations and transforming manufacturing systems, we focus our business in the areas that have the most impact on the way we live and the resources we demand from the planet. So I hope you've got all that. See, I think the key thing to take away from this slide is we work across a variety of markets, variety of sectors, including buildings and places, defence, industry, minerals and metals. Nuclear is a big one for us, actually, nuclear power, a big market for us, but also power and renewables more generally, transport, and then finally water. So within the sort of civil engineering space, we work across, all sorts of different sectors. So a little bit about me, just in case you're wondering. So I studied maths at university many years ago. So I went to Bristol University, where I did a BSc and then a PhD in maths. It's actually coming up to 20 years since I graduated from Bristol, so which is slightly scary. Since then, I've had a career as a sort of generalist OR modeler. I've worked in a variety of different areas, but for the majority of my career so far, I've worked in government, actually. So I worked in GORS, the Government Operational Research Service, for 13 years. And I think you've probably already heard from them during this event. So I won't tell you too much about them, but I worked in various different departments. I started in the Home Office, then moved to the Ministry of Justice, and then to HMRC, and then finally to the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. And then 2 years ago, I joined Atkins Borealis as a consultant. It wasn't my first consultancy job because I worked for a consultancy before I joined the civil service. So I returned to consultancy 2 years ago. I joined the defence and critical infrastructure part of the business. And since joining the company 2 years ago, I've worked on various different projects across different sectors, including defence, net zero, aerospace, and then more recently in transport, in highways and rail. So even in just in 2 years in the company, I've worked on a wide variety of different markets. Okay, so that's a bit about me. I'll tell you a little bit about our OR capability, and I think the best way to showcase this is through some case studies. So the first case study there is Heathrow, which I'm sure we all know is one of the largest airports in the world. It's also one of our largest clients. We as a business do a variety of projects on Heathrow, but the one that we in the OR team worked on specifically was supporting the airport to install 150 new security lanes. And so what we did was we modeled the security lane process using discrete event simulation modeling, and we were able to optimize the process through that. And through our optimization, we were able to enable the airport to reduce space requirements by 40%, and we demonstrated potential savings of over £30 million per year. So this really shows a huge return on investment, how employing OR specialists can lead to real cost savings in the real world. The second case study there is Hinkley Point A. So this is a nuclear power station which stopped producing any power back in the year 2000. And there's currently a program ongoing to decommission the power station. It says they're a 50+ year program, but it actually could take up to 100 years to decommission this power station. And so what we did, again using simulation modeling, we sort of mapped out the entire process and created a schedule, and we were able to identify bottlenecks in the decommissioning process. And through identifying those bottlenecks, we were able to provide recommendations that reduce the timeline of the decommissioning process by 2 to 3 years, which might not sound a lot in a program that's likely to last around 100 years, but it's still a tangible impact that we were able to make through our operational research work. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavour of our operational research capability and the kind of impacts that we have through our work on the real world. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think you should come and choose to come and work for us. I've kind of touched on some of these things already, but just to put it all in one slide, I think the key reason to come and work for us is that you'll be in great company in both senses of the word company. So it's a great company to work for, and also you'll be surrounded by a lot of great people. As I've already touched on, there's a huge amount of variety in the work that we do. And joining as a graduate, I think that's pretty valuable because it will give you a real broad base of experience to build on. I've also touched on the fact that we do very impactful work. So it's not just operational research modeling for the sake of it. It's actually doing modeling that has tangible impacts in the real world. Career flexibility. I think this is a big one actually. For if you working for a large company like Atkins gives you opportunities to work on different areas and to really shape your career however you see fit. And equally, working for a large world-renowned company with a strong reputation, it really sort of stands you in good stead for your career that you've worked for a company that's got this sort of global reach and global reputation. And then finally, and I think this is the key selling point for the company, there's a real culture of care in this company. I know that in the consultancy world, that there's a kind of a reputation for consultancy sometimes being a little bit cutthroat and not always treating their employees that well. And that just isn't the case in this company. It's a completely different model. This company really values relationships. We have long-standing relationships with our key clients, and that gives the company a real sort of stability. And I think the company recognizes that as a consultancy, its employees are its key asset, and so it understands the importance of in treating its employees well. And that's something that really comes across when you work in this company. Yeah, so lots of great reasons to come and work for us. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about our graduate program. I actually manage 6 people at the moment who've been through the graduate program, so I know a little bit about it. I didn't go through it myself. I'm obviously far too old, but yeah, I know through those people how they experienced it and the value that it brought to them. So just to go through some of the key advantages. So you start off the program with a face-to-face induction, and at that you get to meet your cohorts, the people that are on the program with you face-to-face. And that's really valuable because you'll be with your cohort throughout the graduate program, throughout the 2-year program, and you'll be working quite closely with them and sharing advice and so on. The program is structured and gives you a lot of training, both formal and on-the-job training. You get to do various internal placements around the company, and that gives you a flavour of what different bits of the company do. And then you can sort of start to think about which areas of the company you like to work in. But equally, you get a dedicated line manager, which gives you a real point of stability. So there's somebody there who's a bit detached from your project work, day-to-day project work, that you can go to if you have any questions or any problems or anything at all. Business-wide graduate reps, social events, I think, is a key one. I think a key advantage of the scheme is that you'll be surrounded by like-minded graduates at a similar stage in their career, and there's lots of social events that go on. And people say that you make friends on the graduate program that you keep for the rest of your life. I never did a graduate program myself, and I really wish I had, because seeing people go through it, I can see that there's real value in terms of the connections that they make with their peers. And then finally, there's a career planning process, which gives you a sort of structured way to plan out your career, which I think is really valuable as well. Yeah, so I mean, my impression of the graduate program is all positive. I've seen people come through it. I've seen the caliber of people on the program and the great training and the great sort of foundation it gives them for their future careers. Okay, so moving on to some benefits of working for Atkins Realis more generally. So salaries start between 31 and 33,000. You also get a settling in payment of £2,500 when you join. There's 25 days annual leave, which I think is pretty standard these days, but you do also get 2 paid annual volunteering days a year, which you can spend doing whatever sort of volunteering you like. There's a huge range of rewards and benefits. So I was really impressed when I joined the company at the wide range of benefits that you get. So one thing you get is a pension that isn't actually mentioned here. I appreciate you probably aren't thinking at this stage about retirement too much, but it's definitely something to consider when you're weighing up your options. The rewards, every year you get the opportunity to apply for certain benefits, and there's loads of things, like there's a cycle to work scheme, there's an electric vehicle scheme, there's a dental plan, just loads and loads of different benefits you can apply for. I think there's a will writing service, which again probably won't be too relevant for most of you listening to this presentation, but yeah, a whole host of things you can use. A variety of employee networks. Again, I think this is an advantage of working for a large organization. I'll talk a bit more about those on the next slide. Also, opportunities to participate in various company-wide programs. So there's various sort of special interest groups and communities of interest and communities of practice going on across the business. So, for example, I run an economic modelling community of practice. So if that's something you're interested in, that's something you can get involved in. There's also a foreign affairs special interest group, if that's something you're interested in. Simulation modeling, special interest groups, all sorts of stuff going on across the company. Access to our employee assistance program. So this is a service that the company provides where if you're having any sort of issues related to your mental health or any issues outside of work that are impacting your well-being or impacting on your work, and you don't feel comfortable raising this with your line manager or anyone else you're sort of directly involved within the business, you can use the employee assistance program, which is entirely what's the word? Anonymous isn't the word. Confidential, that's the word. And they'll give you help and advice. And this is actually a really good service. And the company provides this and encourages its employees to use this service as well. And then I think the final benefit is the key one. And I've mentioned this before. Joining the company will give you the opportunity to work with other brilliant graduates. So as I said, I manage people who've been to the graduate scheme, and they're all brilliant and they're all really nice people. And I think that's the key benefit of joining our graduate scheme, is that it gives you the opportunity to work with like-minded graduates who are all at a similar stage of their career and all really, really good. So a little bit on life in Atkins Realis. So as I mentioned, there's various networks across the business. So something I should probably say is that we, as a large business, people are generally quite spread out. So we have various office locations around the company. So I'm based in an office in Reading, but there's also an office in Bristol. Our main headquarters is Epsom, just outside London. There's also a central London office. In fact, most major cities in the country have an office. There's offices in Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow, etc. And you can generally choose to work in any of these major offices. But what that means is that people are generally quite spread out across the country. So the company makes a real effort to set up these networks to make sure that people feel included, so that people don't feel isolated and cut off. So there's various things like there's the Embrace, which is the ethnic minority network. There's FN is the faith network. There's more local forums. Social value is a big thing, actually. I haven't mentioned that so far, but there's a huge push on social value in the company and improving our capability in social value. So if that's something you're interested in, that's something you could definitely get involved in. And then also just using Microsoft Teams and Yammer and other sort of ways to communicate within the business to create a sort of sense of belonging and being part of a team. I'll talk a little bit at very high level about the application process. I'm not going to go into great detail here, but basically the first step is to find the right role and register your interest. And then obviously you have to apply. So the first step in the process is there's an online immersive assessment. If you're successful at that, you'll move on to a virtual interview a remote interview with the business. And then if you're successful at that, you'll be made an offer. So it's a pretty standard application process. I think the best thing to do if you are interested in applying is to go to our early careers website. So you can use the QR code here to do that. And there's all sorts of information on there. So yeah, do have a look. I think that's all I had to say. So yeah, that's it. So very happy to take any questions on any of that.
Great, thank you so much. And I think, yeah, that was a really great insight into what Atkins do. I mean, I only ever hear good things about you when I'm at like a military type event. So yeah, I can also second based off that. It sounds like you offer a lot of benefits, which is good because, you know, I think when you come out of university, knowing that you're in a company that has benefits but also has a good environment is really important as well. So yeah, I definitely have a first couple of questions in terms of some of the areas, and then I'll go to the Q&A. So yeah, if you've got any particular questions, please put it in the Q&A, and yeah, we'll get around to them. I think so. You talked about obviously working. I hope I've got this right. Working with Heathrow Airport. Yeah, so when you're doing a project like that with Heathrow, obviously I can imagine all the different levels of security, data, and the sort of high level of that project. I guess if you're on a graduate scheme, what type of clients, if we use Heathrow as an example, would you potentially work with? If you were working with, let's say, a Heathrow, what would you be doing as a graduate on that type of project?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what's the sort of day-to-day life like on a project?
Right.
Mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I haven't actually worked on Heathrow myself, so full disclosure there, but I do manage people who have worked on it. And what they do is we have a model, a discrete event simulation model of the security lanes at the airport. And their job is to run this model, make updates to the model. They get requests from the client. I mean, the model is really integral to what the client's trying to do, and it's really valued by the client, and I think that's important. So we get requests from the client, and we have to do simulation runs and also make updates to the model based on these requests from the client. So we have this sort of ongoing relationship. It's not like we build a model, give it to the client, and that's the end of the story. It's more of a sort of interactive long-term relationship we have with the client, where they see us as the experts in simulation and modeling.
Yeah.
So they come to us for advice, and then we give them advice, and that's how it works.
Yeah, makes sense. And I guess, I mean, if you're coming onto a graduate scheme, what would I imagine every company has different challenges or challenges on projects that you're working on. Where do you think like graduate skills can benefit to, I guess, add to the skills of the company that you might already have? What do graduates add to that?
So I think graduates coming in, and I've noticed this, that they're much more savvy with technology certainly than I am, like an old timer like me.
Yeah.
And so I think making the most use of AI in particular, young people tend to pick stuff up a lot more quickly. And you guys on the call probably know a lot more about this sort of stuff than I do. And the company is really keen to exploit AI to its full potential. I think we feel like we perhaps aren't quite doing that at the moment. So I think that's an area where, as a graduate, you could really come in and make an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, in terms of AI and working on high level projects, it's how you incorporate that and bring it into the real world, but obviously assessing the risks of AI. And I think then that's a really good point. And yeah, I imagine, over the coming years, it's probably something that's going to be even more built into what, people are actually studying and learning about. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I can see also someone mentioned about the annual career plan. So what does that entail? Is that almost like an annual review, or what does an annual career plan look like?
Yeah, so I obviously haven't been through this process myself, but I believe it's well, I guess it's what it says on the tin. It's an annual process where you get to plan out your career. I think this is really valuable because this is something I never did when I started my career, and I think it would have been really, really, really good if I had done this. And obviously, it's not a binding plan; you don't have to stick to it, but just sort of thinking ahead a bit. What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? And that really helps you. It gives you a sense of purpose and a sense of direction, and you can sort of plan out the steps you need to take to get to that endpoint. So I just think having that structure is really beneficial, particularly at the early stages. I think at any stage of your career, but particularly at the early stages of your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think having, setting goals and also understanding, if there's training or areas that you might be interested in, I think it's really good that, you have that set out and the students can get involved in that ultimately when they go on the graduate program. And on the graduate program, I think that was the question in the Q&A, but just from me before we sort of round up, I guess, on the graduate program, is there, I assume obviously it's very competitive, but how many graduates do you tend to take on the graduate program, and what does that look like for students when they go onto it? Are they in like small groups, or do they have mentors? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the number fluctuates year to year, and it's dependent on business need to a large extent. So how many people do we actually need to bring in?
Yes.
I mean, I guess it is competitive, but all graduate schemes are quite competitive, I'm sure. So definitely don't let that put you off applying. And it is a really good program, as I mentioned. I think you would get assigned a mentor. So I mentioned that you get a line manager, and that's really helpful because that's a sort of a stable point of contact who generally isn't involved in your project work. But equally, you get assigned a mentor that you can go to. If you don't feel comfortable going to your line manager for whatever reason, you can go to your mentor and ask them for advice. And there's lots of support networks, and also just people in the company are generally very, very friendly. There's a real friendly ethos. This is something I've noticed joining the company, and so you can just reach out to people for help and support, and people are always happy to give it.
Brilliant. Yeah, it sounds like a really good environment. So yeah, and I think as you said, please, you know, when you hear about graduate programs and go to career fairs or virtual career weeks, just know that someone has to be taken on these graduate programs. So you might think they're competitive, but students will get places. So yeah, just have the confidence to apply to them, and you know, what's the worst thing that can happen when you do that? So yeah, please just go for it. And companies like Atkins are, you know, top tier for getting involved in and actually growing your career. So going on the graduate program, but then I imagine having opportunities to actually grow your career from there and progress. So yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for your time and going into like such depths on the graduate program as well. You know, and competencies and all that type of stuff. It sounds very good. It sounds like you do some very exciting projects. And yeah, I'm sure any students would be super lucky to be part of the team and join. And if you want to circulate any links for the graduate program or dates, feel free to send that across, and obviously I can distribute it to the wider student list that are registered as well. And then just for anyone's benefit who's on the call, we also have another talk later from Atkins, from Matthew Gilbert, talking about it as a worldwide business, so more in depth on the worldwide element, which I think will also be really interesting. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, and yeah, lovely to meet you, and thanks for such a great presentation on the graduate program.
Yeah, no problem at all. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to reach out, I guess via Caitlin.
Yes, yeah, please. And yeah, thank you so much, and speak to you soon.
Great, thank you. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thanks. And I'd like to invite Adija to speak now. I am super excited about this talk. Adija can explain it a lot better than me, but essentially, you know, the focus on actually starting your own business, whether that's during when you're a student, whether when you graduate. And I think this is so interesting, and perhaps also a career path that everyone doesn't always consider in this sector. So yeah, I'll pass over to you and let me know if you need anything for your talk.
Thank you. No, I'm so honored to be here. I'm just going to share my slides, so let me know if you can see that,
Go
because I
for
know
it.
there's some, it took a while for me to find those. Okay. Can you see that?
We can see it.
Can you
Yeah.
see it kind of played out now? Is that all good?
Yes. Yeah. Full
Cool.
screen. All good.
Amazing. So I'm Adija Bajra. Thank you so much for coming along to the session today. I've definitely had the most unconventional career path, and I just want to prove that if I can do it, I promise everyone can do it in this call. And we'll just go through a little bit more about kind of my background, what I've done, all about AI, my learning journeys, just everything that I've gone through to get to the phase now of my company, and a little mini roadmap for anyone on this call to do the same. So my background, I started in cell biology actually at St Andrews in Scotland. So born and raised in London, but I decided to go the furthest I could possible for my degree, and it was the best 4 years of my life. So I would never ever want to change that at all. But I did not study business whatsoever, so I'm a very kind of scientific mind in the back end. But I really have always been drawn and fascinated by a really particular question. How can we make emerging technologies in general accessible to everyone? And then it suddenly became an AI obsession. So it's kind of like following your gut instinct, following what comes out, not necessarily always being super strict on your pathway. And I attended a biotech internship in my second year of university, and then AI came out at the same time. So ChatGPT was released, and I started to see all of the work I was doing there easily automated. Definitely will go through all of that. And that's when I thought to myself, let me upskill myself, let me train myself on how to use AI, just use AI to learn. And then that sort of became how I ended up, creating a whole entire company off the back of that. And so what we do now, we're an AI consultancy. We've been running since November 2023, helped a variety of clients from all different industries. I've had to learn how to navigate and manage myself, actually embed AI effectively. So of course, there's loads of, shiny new tools out there, so much going on. where if you go into a lot of these big corporates, particularly the more traditional sectors, no one really knows how to implement AI effectively and where we start. And so after just 2.5 years of going in, talking to people, this is what I've come up with at the end of it. And we have a team of 10 young people, all freelancers, and growing and scaling. So very excited where we are right now. And so my journey has been a little bit, non-traditional, I would say. I'm just trying to move the little tab on the side. Okay, so I started in 2021, obviously, when I studied cell biology at St Andrews, but I went in thinking I was going to come out with a PhD. Little did I know that would not be the case. And then in 2022, my friend introduced ChatGPT to me. She literally walked into my bedroom and said, "Try this, your life is going to change." And I didn't believe her until I think she has some sort of powers. And then in May to July, that was when I did that internship that I mentioned. So this would have been second year going into third year of university, because St Andrews is in Scotland. They have a 4-year degree as opposed to 3 in the rest of the UK. I interned for a cancer diagnostic therapeutics company because, again, I thought I would be doing a PhD. I thought I'd be in biotech. And the work I was doing, sort of like inventory lists, checking the cell lines, pipetting everything, just didn't resonate as much with me as I had expected. And when AI was coming along at the same time, the very early days, AI, I could already tell, would automate everything I was already doing. So I thought, okay, this is a very weird phase. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of lost. I thought I would be in this space for a really long time. Turns out that all shifted. And so I kept the open mind still. 2 weeks after that internship finished, I ended up getting an email in my inbox from this really cool charity for women called STEMettes. And they were partnered with Standard Chartered. And their idea was, if you're a woman in STEM, why don't you have a 2-week kind of window to apply and start your own business? Think about it. You don't need to have business skills whatsoever. Come in and apply. And that, I think, is the moment my life completely changed for the better. I submitted to that accelerator email, had no idea I would even get in, and I did. And I had 2 weeks to think of a business idea, which was frankly quite bizarre. The idea initially started as me actually building AI solutions for educational technology companies. So I loved education, loved learning about AI, was also teaching myself coding. Again, I had no business or technical background whatsoever, and just taught myself everything I needed to learn, reached out to so many people on LinkedIn. Cold reaching out was my best way, and making content that really, really inspired me. And that's where Advance, the company, was launched in September. We ended up winning the top prize from that accelerator. And since then, it's just kept growing and evolving and changing. I then thought, okay, if I can win a Standard Chartered accelerator, maybe I can win the St Andrews accelerator at my university. And I did. And as with all new ventures and ideas, you reach a really good, strong high and then you plummet a little bit because it's a peak and a trough. That's just how it really is. And so I was getting those clients in, building a team, codifying our frameworks. Then in 2024, there was a huge funding winter, which meant that ed tech companies were not getting money from big VC funds, especially in the UK. So none of these clients could then afford the retainers to continue. So we had to pivot into what I really love and what I'm very, very aligned with, which is training, education, strategy, going into companies from my educational background and bringing in the idea of effective implementation by teaching people how to use AI. And so now we've finally codified all of our frameworks. We have everything a lot more solid, but you can tell it's taken 2 years to get to this phase, and who knows what the next 2 years are going to bring. So this is just a snapshot of my journey. It is never going to be linear, but it is something that is very incredibly exciting because I don't even know what my next week could look like. And if you're someone who really enjoys that thrill and that excitement, this is the perfect place for you, I would say. And I think there's always a question of, why do we start companies? There always has to be a kind of North Star or a reason. And for me, it was a case of seeing that I personally love learning new things, and I didn't know much about AI 3-4 years ago, but I spent a lot of time on upskilling myself. And walking through that journey, I made loads of notes, I documented everything, and I could feel that other people would approach me and say, how did you upskill yourself? How did you do it? We need help. And then I started to merge with the fact that this is a real world need. So not only was it solving my own problem and becoming someone that I wish my younger self had, but also what other companies need and have. And little did I know that pretty much all organizations, bar the big AI companies, need this. So it's very much become a demand that I'm trying to fill. And that just continues throughout the way I run the company. But of course, there were lots of early chaos and constraints. It's definitely not all sunshine and rainbows, but having mentors, family members, friends that can keep you accountable is the most important things. I was balancing a nonprofit, a student society, a dissertation, being social, being away from home, and a degree alongside a company, which was a little bit insane in hindsight, but it's meant that I can come into it full time now after graduating. But I did find 3 main archetypes that I would see myself and some of my friends in, and I thought it would be nice to kind of illustrate this to you. So I'd say the main one that I am is the overthinker. So you spend more time perfecting plans and actually testing ideas. And this is where the momentum kind of dies down if you're not just executing and getting an idea out there. It does not matter if it's not perfect, if it's not polished. You just have to test it to see if the need is actually there. The juggler, which was me again, balancing university, client calls, funding searches, everything was just at one point colluding. Where luckily I've not experienced burnout, but that is something that is very, very real, and it's something to be incredibly mindful of if you choose to embark on this journey. And another one that I never expected I would have experienced is the undervaluer. So actually pricing too low in the early phases and then making these big corporate clients think, oh, then are you really worth paying for if you're that cheap? When in reality, it was about reframing all of the different kind of pricing situations and how to speak to clients so that we could actually deliver and charge ourselves properly. And actually, this is something that really is not spoken about ever, to be honest. So alongside starting a business, I think you also learn a lot more about yourself than you ever realize. And of course, I've had so many limiting beliefs too. I think limiting beliefs are something really not explored as well, where it's almost your mind subconsciously blocking you from taking a step forward until you've sat with it and actually understood it. So again, that's the point of, building a business makes you very, very self-aware down the line. So of course, in the early stages, I thought, I don't belong here. Everyone else is super technical. I can't code a single line. But this meant that I ended up finding mentors, joining groups, societies, watching YouTube videos, basically just using every single resource at my disposal to be able to actually create this effectively. Thinking that I didn't have access to knowledge or networks, but then all of these AI tools mean that everything is democratized. You have literally everything at your fingertips now. And as I always say, use AI to learn about AI. Don't be afraid of just messing around with it, talking to it, texting it. That's how I've built the skills now. Another huge kind of barrier was the fact that I felt too young to add value in some really serious conversations. I had led a nonprofit before, so I knew how to actually interact with other people and lead a team. But when I was meeting big, sovereign wealth funds and VC firms, I really was so nervous to actually come across how I wanted to. But in reality, a lot of the times, my mentor would say, actually, the fact that you're so young means that you can be more agile and that you actually give a fresh perspective because you are the generation that have access to this technology from the moment you're born, essentially. So it's very, very intuitive for us. So I kind of play alongside that too. And the biggest one I would say is, what if I fail and everyone sees? And actually, the reframe in my head was that everything in life is iterative. I was always striving for one perfect end goal and would get so frustrated when I had to review the pitch deck like 15 different times, or I had to redo this application or something. But that is the point. It's meant to be iterative so that every single time you can learn and push even faster. And I think the skills that really actually helped me push forward in the entrepreneurship space and in AI in particular, so these really converge for me, was not being technical at all. It was actually pattern recognition, being able to see what exists out there and connect things that are unrelated, adaptability and curiosity. I'm super curious just by nature, so I had to channel that into something, and then systems thinking. So kind of how I developed them from biology into business, if we see the pattern recognition side, looking at feedback loops, detecting anomalies, when we see loads of different, experiments, being able to actually pick those out and say, oh, these two things connect. In business, it's the exact same way. Looking at, okay, how does an organization not use AI? How could I come in and help them? And with the adaptability side of things, again, that's just my nature by general. So, experiments, testing hypotheses, evolution, I love those kinds of things. And in business, it's actually the same thing. So I started to treat a business as a mini science experiment, if you will, and that helped me move a lot faster because I would fail fast and move forward a lot quicker. And the idea of systems thinking, actually understanding how systems depend on one another, and then in the end, designing teams, tech, strategy around that. So everything is really, really interconnected, and it all connects to AI fluency too. And in terms of how I scaled, because I think this is really important, being able to say that I'm not going to allow just everything to be perfect and only move forward in that way. Doing small pivots, quick delivery, just pushing forward, and then using a lot of case studies as well through the outcomes that we've provided. So whenever we worked with mentors, bringing out the metrics, turning that into content. Another thing they don't really tell you about is that you can use things like awards, podcasts, client recognition as leverage, because if you promote that, your face is out there with your initiative. So you can then amplify your reach, you have credibility, etc. That compounds. One person will then recommend you to 3 others, and suddenly the business rotates forward. And of course, having a lot of momentum is really important. And another kind of, I guess, avenue of pushing forward and scaling was actually productizing my insights. So taking what worked before, making sure I've recorded all of these different processes, and then actually turning them into frameworks that instead of being a let's do it for you consultancy, we sort of have now this core framework, the fault line, that we can then produce for our clients. And of course, building systems for delivery, onboarding, communications, making sure that delegation is also there. So not doing everything yourself because you will burn out. Also, partnerships, I think, are really important. So thinking about what types of influencers work in that particular field, looking at accelerators, going to other companies who are maybe heads of funds, and they can, use your services for them internally and then give it to their portfolio companies. And then, of course, thought leadership. I love the idea of being a founder-led brand and utilizing 1 or 2 platforms to share your voice and share your insights so that people can come in as clients through you. Although it can be exhausting, I absolutely love being on stage and talking. So that really, really helps. And yeah, going away from the idea of just individual wins and pedestaling a very particular goal, but seeing it as incredibly iterative along the line so that you can build even more sustainable structures around you. And yeah, I would say it's not really always about strategy. It's not always about logic when it comes to business. You definitely need logic when it comes to the financial aspect, setting up a company, actually having proper guardrails around your staff, how you're paying them, contracts, NDAs. But in reality, it's actually about stamina. How much are you willing to endure to be able to make sure that you're seeing through an idea all the way to the end or to the goals that you envision for yourself with it? So it definitely is long nights, uncertainty, so much rejection. You do, in the very early days, have to carry a creative spark and do the grind as well. I'm a solo founder. I don't have a co-founder. So that can be even more challenging when you have to, manage thought leadership and content, etc. But it's definitely rewarding, especially if you feel as though you're following your why and your North Star. And there have been times where I've had to reject some more shorter term wins to protect my long-term vision and to keep pushing where I see it. it definitely is not a straight path, but I don't think anything really is if we're to look at it, especially now with AI. There's no dopamine hits. I mean, there is, but there's not as much in terms of like one after the other. And it's not just sort of being your own boss. It really is just being able to push yourself forward and retain that stamina. And I just wanted to kind of end there with giving a little business roadmap in case anyone is really interested. I don't believe in the idea of having to study business to build one, although it does give you incredible background and maybe makes you skip steps that we would have had to learn from scratch if we didn't study it. But I do believe that if you care so deeply about a problem and you've seen a need out there, it sort of becomes yours to solve. So if I were to go back through the entire journey and just start again, how I would do it is testing an idea fast. So running small experiments instead of building a huge business plan that you don't touch, because I built so many business plans and I don't touch any of them now. Using free tools, use AI to test your idea, to come up with ideas. It's all free, it's all out there. And talking to people, not being afraid to hop onto calls with strangers and share your idea and get honest feedback without getting hurt, because I think that's the most important thing in the early days. And then obviously building credibility. So once you've, fixated your idea, it could take longer than 6 months, but you should be able to then package it into a clear offer. And then, actually having a proper client or doing work for free initially for the case studies, and then being able to actually create a proper company and a business and register it. And then collecting all these different testimonials and refining your message and making sure that you're publishing your story online, because visibility is incredibly key here. And then, of course, finding your model. So you have to see what clients or markets give the best ROI. It's okay to not know and to just keep pivoting. That's perfectly fine. Then looking at how you can repeat these systems so you're not doing everything manually, building those partnerships and collaborations to keep pushing your reach. And then, of course, when you get to that phase of beyond 12 months, for me, it's taken 2 years, being able to delegate what drains you, focusing on what you really, really enjoy, and being a leader. And then building a brand, ideally, that attracts opportunities whilst you're sleeping. That is the end goal with a lot of business owners, to have time and money freedom. So it's important to have that in your sights. And then positioning yourself as an authority, podcasts, partnerships, being able to actually say, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and we're proud and passionate about it. So this is kind of my journey, my company in a nutshell. I'm just gonna leave you with a final quote. I'm just trying to move the bar on the side, apologies. So you don't find clarity and then act, you have to always act your way into clarity. And that's one thing that has always stuck with me the whole time. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, or to visit our website, or to however you see fit. But thank you.
Thank you so much. That was so interesting. And I think, yeah, we often talk about in OR sort of the difference between following like a practitioner route or academia. But I think sometimes it gets missed that, there are obviously consultancies and you can go in and work for those consultancies. You also can start your own business. There's all these options for you to think about, which doesn't necessarily make it an easier decision as a graduate. But I think, giving people the education on that there are all these options is super good. And I guess, in terms of questions, what would you say are like the two, if you had to give a student like 2 tips on starting their own business, what would you say?
Okay. I would say make a list of anything you've seen in your life that either irritates you personally, or you've seen outside and you've heard someone say, that really irritates me, because that's how you're going to be able to narrow down and figure out a problem to solve. Because it's never about the solution. It's always about, what are the issues out there? How can I solve that? I think that's where the lines kind of blur. Another one I would say is, before you even start running a business, find something that you're really passionate about and share content around it, because it puts you out there so that you can start building a following, which could convert into potential clients. So I'd say do those things side by side and you'll start to see that an idea will emerge quite quickly.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And I guess, I mean, if you're training at university is mostly towards like the mathematical scientific area, I mean, do you have any advice for seeing, like you mentioned, creativity? How do you think like creativity works alongside uh a highly scientific mind as well?
I think to be a scientist, you are creative by nature,
Yeah.
because in order to actually solve problems and think, okay, I need to do this experiment, I need to hand this in, I need to write this proposal, all of that is entirely creative. I think art and science go hand in hand more than we even realize, but it's about seeing, I guess it's about reframing what art means to you and what creativity is to you. Because when you're writing, that's creative. Maybe you're not doing it out of your own passion and desire, but that's something for you to figure out. But everything you're doing is creative, I think. That's how I see it.
Yeah, it's definitely it's almost like an extra layer to creativity, isn't it?
Exactly.
And a different approach. So I think sometimes it gets tunnel visioned, but yeah, actually the type of problems that you're solving do link into creativity. Um, and is there sort of particular skills that you think uh when you were starting your business, were you like, I'm glad I've got this skill from doing this at university, or is there certain skills you think
Mm,
students have that actually make them, good at potentially setting up their own business?
that's a good question. I think it's the ability to set your own structure. Because I
Mm,
think the jump between sixth form, or A levels in general, and then going to university is that
yeah.
you're not handheld ever, right? So you end up having to create your own schedule, your own everything. You could even just miss a whole week of lectures, and in reality you wouldn't really be told off, right? And that is exactly the same sort of structure you have to be okay with dealing with when you're doing a business, because like I said, my next week could be so different from this week, but you have to
Mhm.
be okay with being independent. And that is what I learned at university. If my hand were to be held the whole time, I don't think I ever would have started a business. So I think that's one of the most important skills, definitely.
Yeah, and I guess, that growth comes from doing certain projects, doesn't it? And I guess at university, maybe leading the way on certain projects, or
Yeah.
take it, as you said, that more authoritative approach to doing that. So no, I think that's such good insight. And I always think if there's a couple of things that students can leave with that are really integral skills, and almost make that linkage between, oh, I could start my own business, or I could, that's an option
Yeah.
that I should think about, then that's amazing. So yeah, thank you so much for your time and presenting, and talking about a business that is like so close to you, and that you're doing, and like amazing work that you've set this up whilst also being a student. So yeah, I
It
hope
was
it
not easy, but thank
continues.
you.
Yeah, I hope it continues to go very well. And obviously I'll speak to you soon, but thank you so much for providing the insight today for everyone as well.
Thank you. So lovely to be here. I'm so honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. And I'm going to pass over. We switch now into our afternoon of events, our last afternoon of the career fair. So I'll be passing over to Karen, who is managing this afternoon. I also will be back for the panel session. And I believe now we have Matthew from Atkins, who is going to be talking more about how Atkins are working as a worldwide business, which Karen will take over on now with Matthew. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. That's been a really insightful morning, and we've had some really good sessions so far today. So I am really excited in the next couple of minutes to welcome Matthew Gilbert from Atkins Realis. He will be discussing the working in a worldwide business. And I think this follows on from the discussion we had on earlier this morning. So I'm just going to wait for Matthew to come online shortly, and then we will begin our session at 1 o'clock. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you.
Okay. So yes, this is Matthew from Atkins Realis to do his presentation for you this afternoon.
Lovely. Let me know when you can see that.
Yep, that's all visible. Thank you very much.
Sorted. So nice to meet you all, and good afternoon. So as you were just told, obviously this is a little bit of a follow-on from the session earlier with Hugh, who's very much focusing more on the graduate side of things. So I'm Matt Gilbert, I'm a principal consultant in the same team as Hugh, and I'll be talking a little bit more about essentially that bit after the graduate program. What is your career going to look like a bit longer term? What opportunities might be available for you if you're working in a business that is the scale of something like Atkins Realis? So there will be some time for questions at the end, of course, so feel free to put them in the chat. And there we go. Lovely. So I'll just give a quick overview of who is Atkins Realis. Obviously, there'll be a little bit of overlap with some of the stuff that Hugh was talking with, but it's a little bit more of a condensed version. Then I'll give a few more examples of OR from my own career and some extra projects from Atkins Realis that Hugh hasn't talked about. Then go through a couple of the options that we have for international assignments, because clearly as we are a multinational organisation, there is a fairly large opportunity for that. And then finally going on to essentially how does your career progress over time, basically, and what sort of support might be available to you going forwards. So, as I say, this one is a repeat, unfortunately, of Hugh's, but at the end of the day, we are this sort of multinational organization that does lots of engineering projects, lots of nuclear projects. We've got people in countries all over the world. I'll talk a little bit about where we are geographically located shortly. And this is a really key benefit that we are an engineering and nuclear organization for OR, because that essentially gives you a way in to a lot of other sorts of projects that you wouldn't typically get if it is just, say, a traditionally OR focused consultancy, because you'll often be able to get embedded with, say, some engineering solutions that we're putting together to build a new site, and there'll be an OR component of that that we can contribute to. So it definitely expands out what is on offer for you. So clearly we're sitting within the consulting, strategy and advisory, but we work very closely with a lot of these other categories that are highlighted there, especially on the engineering and design and project delivery side of things. To some extent on the capital and decommissioning as well. For capital, it's basically how can I best spend my money, and decommissioning is how can I do something quicker and cheaper for a very, very complicated and long process. Obviously, that's most relevant for nuclear, where you're looking at decommissioning old sites. So, moving on, we've just got our, fairly key values that are at the core of everything that we do at the end of the day, and this is reflected day in, day out for all of our projects. In all of the major meetings, we're having a little 5-minute section right at the front, just to talk about, say, a key component of this. So someone will choose a topic and just do some sort of discussion on that, just to get people thinking and making sure that these are always core to our offering at the end of the day. And clearly in the area that we work, especially on the innovation side of things, we absolutely can be at the forefront when we're developing all of these new engineering solutions and trying to figure out how we can actually implement them. And given the number of different capabilities and offerings that we have at Atkins Realis, we'll be able to collaborate across a huge number of different teams. And in fact, there are a variety of different OR teams spread out, even though they're not called OR. They often use OR adjacent methodologies. Quite often they're like modeling specific teams for, say, transportation or water networks or something like that. So where are we? We're basically everywhere. I've just highlighted a couple of the essentially key offices, although clearly we are in Eastern Asia, we are in Africa, we're everywhere really, but our major hubs are UK and Ireland, obviously with Atkins previously, before it was turned into Atkins Realis, and Canada, which is where our headquarters is, and we've got a pretty significantly growing area in Australia as well. and we do a lot of work in the Middle East. So you might know of some very substantial engineering projects in the Middle East, like the Line. If you haven't heard about it, have a look at it. It is a bit crazy what they're trying to do, and we are very heavily involved with that. And that obviously does include some OR of how it is going to work, both in terms of the construction of this gargantuan city that they're trying to build, and the future operation of it once it is operational. So this hopefully gives you an idea of the scope, and obviously as we do have offices across the world, you are able to move around, and there may well be other project opportunities that appear in other areas where you could go over temporarily or even permanently, depending on both the role and what your preferences would be going forwards as well. So who am I? I've only actually fairly recently joined Atkins Realis about 6-7 months ago, but I've got a history in a lot of different industries. So started off with spending far too long at Warwick Uni doing my maths and stats and PhD there, and then moving essentially straight into consultancy work in manufacturing. And a lot of that has been focused on essentially simulation and the different paradigms of simulation and what you can layer over simulation to try and get the most use of it. So things like additional optimization layers, whether that be more traditional optimization, GA, genetic algorithms, machine learning, all that sort of fun stuff. And then obviously a more traditional OR background as well, when it's called for, which is quite common in one of my major industries at the moment, which is defense. In defense, they call it operational analysis. So if you're looking for OR within defense, make sure you're looking for operational analysis, not operational research. There's some historic reasons for the change of that name. But I've also done a lot of work in aerospace, creating propeller blades, for example. I've gone to diamond manufacturing sites, some very scary machinery that they've got there, looked at maintenance of rail and the absolutely crazy costs that they have to incur if they overrun any of their access windows to try and fix signals and things like that. And one very interesting thing that I did was working quite closely with a multinational cosmetics company for about 3 years, looking at improving some of their sites. So as part of that, we were getting sent through hundreds of process sheets that detailed exactly how you're going to make this Head and Shoulders shampoo or something. I didn't go quite as far as trying to recreate it in the bathtub, but I certainly had the formula if I wanted to. And a lot more recently, I've been focusing more on the defense side of things. So with all the different services there and other more sensitive government clients as well. So what about Atkins Realis? What do we do? So I've got 2 extra examples here. Obviously, Hugh discussed a little bit before about some of our work with Heathrow and in nuclear decommissioning. And here we've got another case study for more traditional operational analysis for a major UK defence client. We were looking at storage of explosives, basically, and trying to figure out what would the best way to do that be. And obviously we did lots of options analysis for that, gathering lots of data and doing a lot of different modelling for each of those options under consideration, that ended up showing a very significant saving for them, which they were clearly very happy with. And more internationally, there's some search and rescue modelling that we've done for border guard over in the Middle East, and that is very much looking at sort of radar coverage and where you should be deploying certain pieces of equipment and things like that. And that very much reflects some of the historic examples that I've had in my past as well, looking at similar things like search and rescue within the Falklands, or looking at battlefield radar modelling and detection to try and work with military on that. So there's a very wide range of different opportunities that we've got. Obviously here it's a little bit more defence focused, but you've got very much the more traditional manufacturing and engineering offering that Atkins Realis does have. And you can also go on to some much more abstract representations of modeling, looking at sort of how workforces change over time and things like that. So there's a really good place for OR within Atkins Realis. And as I've mentioned before, that is not just in the UK. There are a lot of opportunities abroad. I mean, since I've joined, there have been a few that have opened up for OR people where there's just been a call for help, basically. And when you're doing these international assignments, it'll typically fall into one of these 4 buckets. I've just done a really, really quick summary of these different buckets, but there's a massive document against each one describing everything, and everything's fully documented with a really clear process to follow, and that describes all the benefits that you get. But it's basically, much shorter term. Then you're going to be looking at, say, working there for a couple of months or a couple of weeks, then coming back and sort of splitting your time like that. Whereas longer term, you might be looking to relocate, and obviously the company would help to support with that. And in all cases, they would also help to try and ease the integration into vastly different cultures as well, which is especially important when you're going to, say, more on the Middle East or Far East side of things, where it is a substantially different work culture there than we do have over here in the UK and Canada and US. They're a little bit more aligned. There's plenty of support that's available there. And at the end of the day, the most common is probably the short term and the long term. So the short term is very much for more specific tasks. Long term would be, say, as I mentioned earlier with the line, it would be a specific project role on that you've agreed to support for 2 years, and you'll go out to Saudi or something for a couple of years and support that, then come back, or rather at the end of those 2 years, decide what you want to do. Do you want to convert that into a permanent role over there, or do you want to come back and be reassigned to something else? So you've got a lot of ownership about how you progress along these as well. So this is talking about we've discussed a little bit about the opportunities on offer, but how do you actually progress your career past this graduate scheme? Because obviously this is going to be the same in quite a lot of different industries, but we've sort of split it into 3 rough categories here, where you've got a foundation level, an intermediate level, and an advanced level. And specifically within Atkins Realis, we have got some very clear tailored advice under each of these stages in your career for each of these bullets that I've listed out here. So it gives you a really clear idea of what you can do to try and move to that next stage. So the foundation is very much just understanding how everything works within the business and sort of making sure that you've got a good base to build on. Intermediate is where you're essentially sort of an independent project resource that can lead and win work yourself, and potentially a technical expert in a specific area. And advanced is sort of that towards a more leadership side, whether that's technical or project or management or whatever route that you want to go. There are options there for any of those choices. So I'm just trying to highlight that, to not think about advanced just as sort of like senior manager, director level. It can be a technical advanced person as well that people across the company worldwide come to for help on specific topics. So we've got someone like that in our team at the moment. He goes on to BBC Radio to talk about mathsy things and all of that sort of stuff, and he gets random emails from the States or Canada about various mathsy or ORE problems and things like that. So how does this sort of look? Typically in OR, you're probably going to be jumping in at the more professional layer. So this is just sort of describing how you can sort of move ahead, and the graduate scheme would be essentially a little bit to the left of that professional layer, but at that sort of tier, basically. And then you'll choose which sort of professional tier you want to move into. So while you're a professional, you're typically an individual contributor. that doesn't mean that you don't manage anything or manage anyone. You could have a small team that you're managing. You could be managing projects, all of that sort of stuff. But when you jump into that sort of manager layer, that's when you've got more of a team capability rather than just a few people that you're helping underneath you try and guide their careers. So there's a significant step up there, but that is in parallel with the professional development. So you will have people that are in professional that are more senior than people that are managers as well, just depending on their experience and seniority within the company. And then obviously you can go past that up to sort of executive board level, but that's a long time in the future for the context of this sort of discussion. So it's just to give you a really quick overview of how it sort of goes along. But this also highlights how wide-ranging the offering at Atkins Realis is, because we do have a lot of that operations and technical support as well. So that's really key to tap into for a lot of our projects, to try and get a lot more detailed information on how systems actually work. So if I then move on to essentially how does the company support you in this journey, there are a lot of different mechanisms on offer at the end of the day. So the first is essentially development schemes, clearly as it's titled here. This is looking at how you get accredited, how you grow your career, whether you want to do additional degrees while working, all of that sort of stuff. I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But alongside of this, you've clearly got a dedicated mentor, and there's lots of different avenues that you can go down to try and find people that will mentor you in the area that you want as well, so that you're growing in the direction that actually fits with your aims. And there's a huge breadth of training resources that's available to all of the employees, obviously, and that would form part of sort of your annual review process going forwards. And all sorts of bespoke guidance that the company itself has put together to support the accreditation journey for whichever organisation you've chosen, that goes alongside with any guidance that has been produced by that professional body. So obviously we'd be able to support with accreditation within the OR Society, but there's plenty of other bodies that the company traditionally supports as well. And then finally, the very, very specific support to accreditation. Obviously, there is a lot of adjustment that will go alongside your typical day-to-day work, because the company does like people to get accredited at the end of the day, so they will be very lenient going forwards. And if there are certain professional bodies that you want to go after, or accreditation you want to go after that hasn't been done yet by the company, they're very open to going down that route as well and opening that avenue going forwards. So one thing that I mentioned earlier was essentially doing degrees while you're working. So this is something that the company is very happy to support, and it will essentially be a part-time degree. You will be given a portion of your time each week to put towards that degree, and you'll also be expected to do certain off-the-job training towards that degree as well, obviously. And that will go on for a number of years, obviously, to be dependent on your circumstances, how you want to be going, how fast you want to be going, that sort of stuff. It could be anything from a shorter master's degree of 2 years or something at part-time to sort of a PhD where you're looking at sort of 6 to 8 years or something and slowly chipping away at it over time. And the company will be very happy to support going forwards with that. So just as a really, really quick overview of some of the key topics that I think you should take from this is that do think about sort of that longer term vision of what you want to be doing past that graduate scheme, and whether the company that you're looking at has the opportunity to support you along that and has all of the opportunities that you're looking to get, especially for things like international assignments as well. that is something that you're typically going to be able to do much more easily earlier when you're a bit more geographically mobile, and the company is a lot easier, a lot more willing to support all of the relocation, even though obviously if you do permanent relocation, they will relocate any dependents and stuff like that alongside it as well. And working within this sort of very broad consulting environment, we've got a huge base of engineering and nuclear professionals. That gives you such a strong base of people to work with, to identify new projects with, and work in lots of different areas. So, you know, at the moment, I'm working with some colleagues in energy for nuclear. I'm working with colleagues in defence in a couple of the different services there. I'm working with colleagues in water supply as well. There's a pretty wide variety of work that you can get access to, as long as the company actually has the scale to go with it. And I think that is everything that I wanted to go through. So please do let me know if you have any other questions at this stage.
Thank you very much, Matthew. That was a great talk and really insightful. Do we have any questions from anybody attending? I have a quick one that is there particular skills or knowledge that you think would be beneficial for people joining your programs and Atkins Realis, especially in terms of solving some of the real life problems that you're working on these projects?
Yeah. So very much, I think the things that you should be focusing on are, yes, you need to include obviously your technical skills, but everyone's got them. The key difference that people will be looking for, especially within OR, are those softer skills of being able to talk to people.
Hello.
So
Hi, Roderick.
hello, we can hear you there. So as I say, focus on those softer skills, focus on stakeholder engagement, that you can understand requirements, that you can read between the lines of what people are saying to understand what they really want, because people are not very good at actually stating what they want. They will probably rehearse something that they've been told, and there's a real meaning behind that somewhere that you're going to have to get to the bottom with, and your technical skills are probably not going to be helping with that. It is going to be down to that sort of empathy and understanding how other people think and what the real problem is behind that.
That's brilliant, thank you. Was there a question from the audience that wanted to be put forward? If you'd like to unmute. No, I think that's it for today. So thank you very much, Matthew, for joining us today. And yes, if there are any questions that people think of later, then we'll forward them on to you if they contact the OR Society with those questions. That'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good afternoon, Samantha. It's nice to see
there.
you. Hello. Okay, I'm just going to spotlight you.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, it's all coming through nice and clear. Thank you. Brilliant.
Good.
So
Good
I will
luck.
just introduce you for this afternoon session, if you're happy to go ahead.
Yes. Just want to make sure I can see everybody can see the slides. Okay, that's all. And because I can't see anything, so just in case my face looks a bit bizarre, I do apologise.
Yes, you might want to put it in presenter mode because we can see the side slides at the moment.
Okay, let me just do that just now. There we go.
Super.
Does that look,
That's
does that
perfect.
look right?
Yes, absolutely perfect. Brilliant. So I'd like to introduce you to Samantha Bremner, and she's from Aegon, and she's going to be discussing today the Driving Social Inclusion through Aegon's Summit Internship Programme. So I hope you'll contribute with some questions at the end if you have any. Just put them in the chat, and we look forward to hearing your presentation. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for attending today. So yeah, my name's Sam Bremner. I'm one of the talent acquisition consultants here at Aegon. And what we have been doing recently is really making sure that we are driving social inclusion, and we're doing this through a lot of different ways, but one of the ways is through our summer internship programs, which is more relevant to you guys there. So, just to kind of go through what we'll talk about. So we're going to talk about Aegon. So you might not know who we are. So I'll do a brief introduction to who we are and what we're about. I'll talk about our recruitment process, and this is really where we'll talk about what we've put in place to ensure that everybody has the best opportunity to come and start their career or have that opportunity to experience what it's like to work within financial services. I've got some quick tips for success, just to kind of give you some ideas about how to prepare for applying for these roles. This is the time of year if you're looking to do a summer internship. Now is the time that applications are open. I'll talk to you about what our opportunities are here at Aegon, and then we've got some time for questions at the end as well. So who are we? So Aegon, we are the UK's largest investment platform. And we are really concentrating on putting financial well-being at the heart of everything that we do within this organisation. So before we start to do something, we'll think about how does that impact our customers. Okay, so we do work with customers, with financial advisors and with employers to provide mainly pension, savings and investment solutions. Now, what drives us to kind of look at social inclusion as well is as a people, we're living longer than we ever thought we would. All right, you probably have heard before that a lot of time you would have done school, you would have graduated and went into work, and then you would have retired. And now many people are changing careers in their 50s, are having second lives, they're going away and doing sabbaticals and taking years out. So, the next generation is expected to live until they're 100 years old. That kind of life expectancy keeps on going up. And everything is changing around us. So we need to make sure that we are saying goodbye to traditional 3 stages of life, as we just said. And we need to make sure that when we're thinking of our products and when we're thinking of our customers, that there's not one single path through life nowadays. Today, there's many more opportunities, and we're excited about what that means. And that's why our purpose is to help people live their best lives, to make sure that they're financially ready to be able to do everything that they want to do. And we try to do this by making sure that we live our best behaviours. So we always try to make sure that we tune in so we're constantly listening to our customers and trying to evolve into what they need us to be, instead of us just deciding that we know best. We like to step up, so we work with advisors and employers to help our customers build money confidence. So we have organisations like Pension Geeks that we work with quite a lot, and they're there to do a lot of online seminars to kind of help people understand the different types of savings, pensions and investments opportunities and how they work for you. And we're also a force for good. So we're socially responsible business that we're committed to reducing our environmental footprint. So that's not only in what we do in person as an organisation, but in also the what funds that we invest in as well. Right. So I'm here to talk to you a bit more about our recruitment process and how we manage that in a more social, inclusive way. So here at Aegon, we tend to advertise our summer intern roles around this time of year. So they'll hit out about December into February. Now, we don't do it all on the same week. We make sure it's spread out because everything is done with human interaction. So We advertise these roles on our website, on LinkedIn. We're very keen to use local university boards as well to make sure that we are hitting everybody that is available to do the role. Now, the next stage is the most vital part and most change that we've made when doing our recruitment. So we use another organisation called Arctic Shores. And this is a gamified assessment where you will do, depending on the role, different tasks to fit the behaviours that they're looking for in that role. So this could be anything from matching shapes up, or trying to break the code on a lock, or reading people's facial expressions. There's no way to prepare for it. There's no way to cheat it. And in this way, we are making sure that there's no initial bias going in to the review of applicants. We also, with doing that, for our summer interns last year, we issued over 1,600 of these virtual assessments with 74% completion rate. And what our candidates were telling us was that they actually felt, 86% felt a sense of accomplishment completing these, and even higher of 88 felt positive about working for us. Once completing these, they felt that it wasn't that we're basing things on their behaviours rather than just reading off the sheet. We also feel it's important to do a telephone screening call to give you an opportunity to ask as many questions as you want to, and for us to explain to you about the process, what to expect, and if you were successful, what to expect with us. We're also seeing a large increase in in-person assessments. We had great feedback from those that have done internships with us in the past, that it actually gave them a better understanding of who they'd be working with, and kind of taken away from that online virtual assessments that a lot of organisations are doing. Moving on, we complete some vetting. So if you were successful, because we are a financial organisation, we need to make sure that there are checks that are completed for financing criminal. And we don't ask for work references, we just ask for academic references to kind of just confirm what course it is that you've either studied or studying. This again kind of calls into this social aspect to make sure that we have enough ways to be able to complete this vetting as well. Not everybody has a passport, so we made sure that with the people that we use are able to complete these in as many different ways as possible. We carry out a 12-week summer intern programme, and it's really important for us that you get vital work experience. So you'll come in and you'll be doing not just picking up the admin work, you'll be involved in exciting projects and getting your hands really into what we do in each different department. And we also put on development opportunities for people as well, including networking, presentation skills, Office 365, some of these things that you might not be able to experience while working elsewhere or through your university. When the placement ends, we always discuss future graduate opportunities. Now, a lot of our opportunities for graduates come through those that have done the summer placement. This year, our technology department had a 100% success rate for the 4 summer interns that we have all been offered a permanent position with us to start next summer once they graduate. And I thought it'd be important for us to talk about some tips for success and just to kind of help you out on your application journey. You'll probably be applying for a number of different roles, if not just now, but in the future. And you'll be up against hundreds of applications. For example, one of our roles we only advertised for 1 week, and we had over 600 applications for that. So it's really important that you make sure that your application stands out. So I'd really advise that you tailor your CV for the role. All right, so you want to highlight the relevant modules or projects or other internships or experience that you've done before, making sure that you fully read out the job description. You kind of want to mirror the language that's used in the adverts as well, especially when it comes to technical terms or role-specific phrases. And if you're not sure, then, you know, you look these up and make sure that you fully understand what these terms and phrases are, because if they've used them in an advert, then it's something that's going to be most likely said if you are successful for the placement. And the one thing I would say that I cannot stress enough is to tailor a cover letter for each organisation that you apply for. All right, go on their website, use the details that they have on there, such as their behaviours and values. Make sure that you're tailoring your experience to what it is that they have advertised for. Another tip is for if you're being interviewed, is to please always remember to use the STAR format as written out here below. So what they're looking for is a situation. So you're setting the scene. What happened? What was the context? The task, what was your responsibility? Now I really want to highlight here that is what you did. Use the word I, not we. What actions did you take? And what was the result? So we always need to know, what was the outcome? What did you learn? And you can practice with real examples. So when you're doing interviews, it doesn't have to be just from work. It could be working on a project at university. It could be volunteering opportunities that you've taken up. I'd also encourage everybody to engage with recruiters on LinkedIn. If you see a role that you're interested in, but you want more information, please reach out to them. They'll always be more than happy to have that conversation with yourself. You'll also be able to see other key team members through that way as well. So if you just send a short, polite message expressing your interest in a role, and in that way you can either set up a call or you can just ask for advice. And also you can share relevant content or comments thoroughly, and then build your own visibility. So it's all about building your own brand as well from this early age. So the opportunities that will be coming up this year is we have a number of actuarial interns, and those applications will be opening in December. We also then have accountancy and operational finance roles that will be available for you to apply for in January. We're currently getting the confirmation on numbers for our people function, which is betterly known as HR, and also for our technology department. And we'd hope to have these go live in January, February as well. I feel like I've flooded through that. So if you have any questions, please do let me know. Anything in the chat?
There doesn't seem to be anything in the chat at the moment. Could you maybe describe what a typical day would be like in terms of being an intern?
Yeah. So as I said, we always make sure that you've got proper work to do. So you'll always come in, we'll always make sure that there is a manager or a buddy on site for you. We work a hybrid model, but we've found that a lot of those that are coming into our internships like to come in more days during the week. So you'll be given a project to work on, or be part of a project that's already running. Just make sure that you're getting the depth of knowledge that you require. So you'll probably spend a morning doing some work. There'll be a team meeting or meetings for you to attend as well. You're treated very much as you are going to be here for the long haul and get you embedded into our culture and into the team as early as possible. We do weekly development sessions or coffee chats with senior leaders. So our CEO always makes sure that he gets some FaceTime with all our interns that are coming into the office and heads of other departments as well within our executive committee. And we also like to make sure that when people come along to our summer internships, that if they have an interest perhaps in other business areas or there's a crossover and they want to spend more time, that we always facilitate those kind of introductions and help to kind of build your knowledge of not just the one area. So if you came in as an actuarial, you might want to know the broader finance department, but we make sure that you kind of get the most out of your time with us.
Brilliant. And would you say there are particular degrees or like skills that you're looking for, like analytics or like data science or things like that, that would be of benefit?
With our finance ones, we're always looking for people. So the actuarials they're keen to see people that are studying actuarial sciences, but we'll also consider people who are doing like maths subjects. And that's the same for our accountancy and our operational finance as well. So they are looking for people to have maybe that specific role that they're studying, but they are opening it up to relevant subjects as well. It's not got to be very specific. And as I said, a lot of our recruitment is, we would look for people to have in this application form, it does say relevant experience, but we are, once we know you've got that, then we're looking to see if your behaviours match ours. So all the information you're provided with kind of helps you, it tells you what our behaviours are. So when you're preparing your answers, you know how to answer these as well. So, you know, we're always looking for people that are stepping up. They're always willing to kind of develop and grow themselves and as well with the organisation, and, you know, willing to go and try different things as well. So they're willing, they're not tunnel visioned into this is what we're looking to do. They're kind of open to see, well, actually, I've never thought of that. I've never seen that in an organisation before, or never thought that was a job role before. And go that when we had our interns in the people section this year, they did, even though they're studying human resources, they didn't realise how many different teams there were within that department. So it's really, I would advise everybody as well, like just to put yourselves out there and to get as much exposure to different areas as possible.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Is there any questions from the audience? No. In that case, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today, Samantha.
Not a problem at all. And if anybody wants to connect on LinkedIn, I'm quite easy, got quite a unique name, so there's not many of me. So if you have any questions, I know some people are reflectors, so if you have any questions or would like some advice, then please do reach out. I'd be happy. Oops, I've sat down for too long and the lights have gone out. But yeah, reach out. I'm more than happy to talk through anything with you as well. We can set some time up on a one-to-one basis.
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye. So thank you very much to Samantha from Aegon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
There we go. It's good to see you, Stefano.
Good to see you too, Karen.
Brilliant. Oh, so I'd like to introduce you all to Stefano Coppola from the University of Southampton, who will be leading our next session. If you do have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A. We'll go through any questions at the end of the session today. So I will hand you over to Stefano for you to do your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Karen. So I have a return in my headphones. So can you just mute maybe yourself? Okay, now it should be much better. Thank you so much. So thank you so much, Karen, for the introduction. And I am Stefano Cipolla, and I work as a lecturer at University of Southampton and serve as admission officer for the MSc in Operational Research at University of in the School of Mathematics here at University of Southampton. And current university students are our future business experts, managers, and leaders. That is why we at CORMSYS value so much working with them at all stages of their study and of their professional careers. In this talk, we present you how we do this. Welcome everyone to this presentation about maximizing impact through industry academic collaboration. And today we will explore how CORMSYS bridges the gap between academic excellence and industrial needs. While CORMSYS has been around for many years, about half the lifetime of the OR society is my guess, there is always change in what society and companies want or need to achieve and how they can do so. That is why at CORMSYS, we have a passion to keep working at the forefront of academic knowledge and in addressing novel problems with novel methods. CORMSYS is indeed truly unique in UK. We are the only research group that straddles both the School of Mathematical Sciences and the Southampton Business School. This gives us a comprehensive perspective on decision-making challenges. And our expertise spans the traditional foundation of operational research. We indeed excel in optimization, which basically accounts in finding the best solutions under constraints. Our scheduling and logistic work helps organization operate more efficiently. We work on operation and supply chain management to streamline business processes, and our data science and business analytic capabilities turn data into actionable insights for companies. And moreover, in risk analysis, finance, and credit scoring, we help organizations make informed decisions under uncertainty. Building on our core expertise, we also specialize in modern computational methods. Our simulation capabilities allow us to model complex systems before implementation, and we are proficient in R, Python, programming for data analysis and modeling. And our machine learning and data mining expertise helps uncover patterns in large data sets. We work on revenue management to maximize profitability, and our forecasting methods help organizations to plan the future. We currently teach over 300 master students across 6 specialized programs. These programs cover business analytics and management sciences, business analytics and finance, logistics and supply chain analytics, data and decision analytics, and operational research and data science, and operational research and finance. We also supervise PhD students and teach undergrad programs. So in these QR codes, I will leave them maybe some second on the screen. You can just scan these QR codes if you want to know more about our programs. Right. So let's now focus on one of our most successful collaboration mechanisms, which is the industrial student projects. These projects are a cornerstone of how we connect students with real-world business challenges. And let's see how this process works. This is actually a very straightforward straightforward and effective process, since the first step is for a sponsor to identify a relevant business issue and create a project brief. The second step is the students to express their interest, and sponsor have the opportunity to interview candidates, and at the same time we facilitate this matching with the appropriate students for a suitable project. And after that, through the summer, students gather data, analyze the issues, and write up their findings in a dissertation. And this hands-on experience is invaluable for both students and sponsor. And I will say more during this presentation about this. Let's start from students. These projects offer tremendous advantages. They get to solve real problems similar to those they will encounter after graduation. And moreover, this gives them a head start in building a portfolio of experience for the CV, but also they get networking with relevant industries and people, which is a crucial step for career development. I mean, I would say that our way of, doing this project is learning by doing in the most practical sense. And if instead we look at the advantages for the industrial partners, these are significant too. They did gain access to the latest ideas in operational research, finance, and management science. Moreover, our projects offer an affordable and science-based form of consultancy. Moreover, with with short lead times, quick results, and flexibility, we can adapt to changing business needs. But perhaps the most important of these advantages is that these projects provide a pipeline to recruit future talents. Many sponsors end up indeed hiring the students they work with during the project. We are proud to have worked with a diverse range of sponsors over the years. And here in these slides, we show just some of the organizations that we had the pleasure to work with and trust Cormises as their business for their business challenges. The variety reflects the broad applicability of operational research methods to industrial problems. Let me share some examples of recent projects to give you a sense of the breadth of the work we do. Students work recently on benchmarking and optimizing green logistics using AI and OR approaches. We have tackled business time series forecasting with the deep learning neural networks, and there have been comparative analysis of disaster logistics and optimization of delivering hospital services at home. And moreover, students have evaluated ethical investment strategies for charities, funds, analyzed algorithmic trading models, and even explored applying large language models to agents-based simulation. As you can see, the diversity of our project is really remarkable. And more examples of our project include maintenance scheduling for offshore wind farms, meta-heuristic algorithms for NHS logistic route optimization, and optimal disaster relief shelter location. Students have predicted charity giving propensity, credit rating misalignments, film box office performance, and motorway travel speeds. They worked on recharging station location for electric vehicles, food security simulation optimization, and sustainable deep learning. As you can see, each of these projects addresses real challenges with rigorous analytics methods, and this is what we are very good at. If you want to know more about our recent projects, please scan this QR code. Right. But of course, you don't just take our word for it. Let's look at where our students end up. Our alumni hold impressive positions across various sectors. We have a Chief Information Officer at the University Hospital Southampton, NHS Foundation Trust. One of our graduates is a data analyst in the International Maize and Wheat Improvement Center in Mexico. Another works on the Census 2031 task force at the Office for National Statistics. And we have a lead product data scientist at British Highway, a head of membership at the Victoria and Albert Museum, a global head of data science at Group M, and a head of revenue management at British Airways. Further examples of our graduates' success include positions at Ernst & Young, Jaguar Land Rover, Amazon, Lloyd Banking Group, and many other leading organizations. Our students go on to make significant impacts in business, government, and academia. And the skills they develop here, analytical thinking, problem solving, and the ability to apply rigorous methods to messy real-world problems are highly sought after by public and private sectors. Student success stories continue with the graduates working at major consultation firms, technology companies, healthcare organizations, and financial institutions. The CORMSIS experience prepares students for leadership roles across industries. Many return to tell us how their project work directly prepared them for their challenges in their careers. And let me also mention that the CORMSIS experience is also about excellence. And in this slide, I want to highlight the success of our graduates that usually receive prizes. The common thread in all the, on all these prizes received and all the impact creating is this is not. The common thread is their ability to successfully apply quantitative methods to solve complex business problems. And here in this slide is more about successful stories from our alumni network. And in particular, in this slide and the next, I want to highlight that our students receive very often the May Hicks Award, which is awarded by the OR Society. And this is an award for their postgraduate project. And indeed, their CORMSIS training provides a foundation for solving problems in any industry that values data-driven decision-making. In particular, the winner for 2025 is Lei Zhu. I had the pleasure to co-supervise her project on production planning for frozen vegetable food processing with an industrial partner from Italy, Itella. And here I would like just to give a concrete example of what are these projects about. Basically, the industrial partner asked us how to provide an optimized production plan that would take into account the unique operational challenges they were facing, including the perishability of the raw materials and the continuous processing time limitation they had in their factory in Italy. And here, this slide is not because I want you to bother with mathematics, but mathematics, but because this slide presents the particular mathematical model that Lei has chosen for this problem, which is a mixed integer linear programming model. And somehow she was able to, encompass in this problem all the requests advanced by the industrial partner. So this model here, I know that is incredible to believe that, but here it's all the requests that the industrial partner was somehow giving to us are encoded in this mathematical model, in these mathematical equations that you see here. And indeed, this is a perfect example to showcase our program structure. We have designed our MSc courses to build foundational knowledge in the first term, and then allow the students to specialize and apply their skills through projects in summer. This progression ensures that students are well prepared when they engage with industrial partners. And in this slide, I want to present a typical summary of the output/results of a very good project, I would say. The model that Lei presented suggested that it's possible to reduce the total planning horizon to 2/3 of the original plan. And of course, you can easily imagine the economical implications and the satisfaction of the industrial partner for the achievements obtained in this project. And here, just very quickly, I would like to highlight the feedback of Dr. Pirri, which was the co-supervisor of the project, which was very enthusiastic of the implied real-world value of the project. Let's now skip to another somehow topic of this presentation, and this is about the exceptional career supports that sets us apart from other universities. We provide one-to-one appointments available for 5 years after post-graduation, which is crucial as your career path often evolve over time. We provide specialist support for international students, including career talks for Chinese employers. We provide dedicated career fairs specifically for maths, actuarial science, and OR. Employers are looking for our students' quantitative skills, and we have a dedicated employability tutor for mathematics and a specialist careers team for business school. We have a platform which is about where there is an ongoing professional development. And somehow this comprehensive support ensures our students are not just academically excellent, but truly career ready for industry, consultancy, or research roles. We also provide for exceptional students who want to start their own ventures, we offer comprehensive enterprise support. We work closely with the university's incubator hub and Future Wars to help students develop their business ideas. We also have a dedicated spin-out support through our Senior Knowledge Exchange Fellow in mathematics, who helps academics and students commercialize their research. Our student enterprise support extends to help students engage with programs like Innovate OK. We provide mentorship, resources, and connections to help students, entrepreneurs succeed. And the university has indeed an excellent facilities and networks to support innovation and business creation. Let's also now go to our postgraduate research project scheme, offer another collaboration opportunity. And somehow these are shorter duration projects, 3 to 6 months, where PhD students work on real world problems. And this kind of project example, you can see an example here in the left of the slide about optimizing cruise line P&O. elevate the PhD students' work by applying it to practical challenges. This project have indeed great potential for knowledge transfer through research, reports, code transfer, or even licensing. And business proposal can be submitted at any time during the year. CORMSYS also offers research opportunities beyond student project. We have fully funded PhD positions through various schemes, including UKRI Center for Doctoral Training. We employ postdocs on funded projects with partners like Innovate UK, NHS Foundation, EPSRC, and ESRC. We participate moreover in the education of our students through the NatCore courses and suggesting the student to take part to OR Society events for professional developments. Let also mention that we conduct detailed surveys and analysis of our programs to continuously improve. We take student feedback seriously and use it to refine our offerings. Quality assurance is indeed essential for us to maintain our reputation for excellence. Let's hear what our students say about their experience. One student praised the well-structured course with plenty of module choices and excellent teaching staff support. They noted that within a month of finishing, almost everyone who had been looking for a job had found one, and another student highlighted Southampton as a great place to study with excellent sport facilities, a thriving city, and the beautiful new forest nearby for exploring. More student testimonials highlight the practical value of CORMSYS training. One graduate at British Airways says that their degree equipped them with skills to solve real-world problems daily, providing the ideal general rehearsal for their career. Another at Sainsbury's credits their math degree with CORMSYS for the analytical and problem-solving skills essential to their role developing data-driven solutions. The interdisciplinary education was key to making the transition to industry possible. And students particularly value how a master degree in operational research opens employment's door. The Southampton master degree are indeed highly respected in industry, and the project element provides an excellent and invaluable opportunity to apply our skills to real-world problems. For those who have already completed their degree, we offer, of course, also career advice. We recommend curating a portfolio or CV on LinkedIn and GitHub. We recommend inviting endorsement from collaborators, teachers, and company contacts who know your work. We recommend considering to offer consultancy to potential companies to build experience, gain recognition, and collect testimonials. As you can imagine, building a professional reputation takes time, but all these steps help. And you can here you find the key contacts for students interested in our programs. Elaine Zenko is our program lead in mathematics and also serves as an employability tutor. Stefan Bayer is our program lead in business schools, whereas myself, as I said at the beginning, I am admission officer for OR at the School of Mathematics. Here in this slide, we have provided email addresses and phone numbers for admission inquiries. Please don't hesitate to reach out. So now for the last part of this presentation, let's also hear from our industry sponsors about their experiences. One sponsor said that they had a fantastic student who was a pleasure to work with, and the academic supervisor knowledge was invaluable. They hope to continue working on similar projects with the university. Another noted that the student was very hardworking and the tutor very helpful with guidance. A third sponsor praised how obstacles were approached with enthusiasm. More sponsor testimonials emphasize the value they receive. One sponsor said that the academic supervisor provided additional ideation that helped move the problem much further than expected, and another one appreciated the great student and expert skills that helped analyze their datasets. Moreover, let me also mention that the opportunity to interview students results in higher caliber candidates, because as I said before, the industrial partners have the chance to interview the students, and these regularly produce high quality work year on year. If you are someone from industry that is interested to work with us, there are multiple ways for you to collaborate with CORMSYS. And let me also mention that most of them are tax deductible as a research and development expenditure. So MSc projects, as I've probably mentioned, run from June to September and provide a short-term type consultancy. PhD projects are 3-4 year engagements project, and they usually start in October, and they are meant for deeper research collaborations. And knowledge transfer partnership are flexible arrangement with government funding. We also offer consultancy and continuing professional development. Each pathway offers different benefits depending on your needs. You can scan this QR code to know more about possible ways to engage with us if you are an industrial person interested to work with us. Let me also quickly mention the key contacts for companies interested in collaborating with CORMSYS. Patrick Bellens is our director in the business school. Wang Fan is our co-director in mathematics. James Stalwood is our senior knowledge exchange and enterprise fellow in mathematics. And Sue Berger is our industry liaison officer in the business school. You can reach us at the email that you find here in the slide, and we are really always interested in hearing about new collaboration opportunities. Thank you for your attention. We hope this presentation has given you a clear picture of how CORMSYS creates value through industry, academic collaboration. Whether you are a student considering our programs, an organization looking for research partners, or simply interested in operational research, we'd love to hear from you. Please visit our website or drop us a message to start a conversation about how we might work together.
Brilliant. Thank you, Stefano. That was a really great talk, and I'm sure that's created quite a lot of interest from the audience. Are there any questions that people want to put in the chat or Q&A? Nope. So I would like to thank you, and thank you for your presentation, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 minutes for the panel discussion.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I look forward to take part in the panel.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, Dave.
Hello, welcome.
Hi, Safajan. Hi, Matu.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Super.
Good afternoon,
So
everyone.
we are welcoming our 4 panelists for today for our final session of our 3-day career week. And I'm delighted to welcome back Stefano Coppola from Southampton University, Surujan Mamathuraja, hopefully I've said that correctly, Dave
Thank you.
Williams, and also Matthew Norris. So over to you for this final insightful session. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Karen.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think over the last 3 days we've covered a lot of different areas across particularly, I guess, what companies, industry, the public sector, you know, what we're looking for in graduates, tips for graduates, and different career paths. And I guess how you can be like the most confident version of you when you're going for opportunities. So what we really wanted to do in this final session was bring different angles to that, different parts of the industry across OR and data science. And what I really wanted to cover was focus in on the key skills and competencies that, you know, you might look for. For example, at like the National Audit Office, if you have graduate programs, what an ideal graduate looks like, I guess, if that exists in your mind, and particular skills that go with that. So what I'll do is I'll guide through some particular questions that I've got down and just keep it conversational between everyone. Obviously it's on Teams, so it's so much harder doing a panel virtually, because we'll all just end up talking anyway and then probably not here, but we'll do the best we can. So I guess a good starting place is just to introduce each of you. Obviously some of the students may have come to the day that you presented, but just your name, where you work, and what you do briefly would be good. And I'll start with Mitu because you're first on my screen.
Hi, I'm Mitu Norris. So I work for the Government Operational Research Service. We're the OR professions body through the central civil service, so largely working to ministers in Parliament. And what I do, I'm head up their central management unit, so we look after, amongst other things, recruitment via various routes to come and join us. We organise events and all the networking and things like that throughout the profession. We have about 1,600 members across all the nations, actually, apart from Northern Ireland. So we are represented throughout England, Wales and Scotland. So
thank you. Dave?
Thank you, Caitlin. My name's Dave Williams, 2 times #1 best-selling author, international speaker, and award-winning peak performance coach, and also the creator of the Management Mastery University.
Thank you. Sathajan?
Thank you, Caitlin. So, yeah, I'm Sathajan. I'm a data science analyst at the National Audit Office. So a bit of an introduction to the National Audit Office. We're a public sector group, and we essentially audit government spending, which I find quite cool as a concept. It's something I wasn't really familiar with until I looked into it and started researching. But in terms of the role itself, as a data science analyst, we help audit teams either with specific parts of data analysis, or we help with the upkeep of in-house apps that we have. So there's a couple of different data science aspects that we help out with within the organization. But yeah, that's me.
Thank you. And Stefano, I know everyone will have just heard your fantastic talk, but just in case any of the panelists joined at the end.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stefano, and I work as a lecturer at the University of Southampton. I am trained mathematician. My research specialty is numerical optimization, and basically the main topic is how to apply algorithm for large scale problems. How to use the structure in the data to allow your algorithm to run faster, I would say.
Brilliant, thank you. So yeah, I think a good place to start, sort of obviously from the introductions, and what I personally think is really important for graduates to obviously leave Career Week with, or any career fair that they attend, is really how they can stand out to other candidates or be the best version of themselves when they're going forward for interviews, applications, all those processes. So I think a good place to begin with that is within your organizations. And Dave, this might be a slightly different angle for you, is what skills you particularly look for when you're hiring graduates. And then I guess for you, Dave, what do you think in terms of confidence building and all those areas? What skills do you think students actually need to have the creativity as well to go on to graduate programs? So I shall open it up to whoever would like to talk first about what sort of skills you look for in graduates. Dun, dun, dun.
I'm happy to go first if.
Yeah, go for it, please.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So yeah, in terms of skills that we look for, I guess I can give a bit of context as well. So at the National Audit Office, we have graduate schemes, but they're more focused for like audit side and accounting side. As like from a data science and operational research sort of perspective, we have an internship, and that's what I did actually. So I did the internship. I started in 2024, and then I ended it like a couple of months ago, and then got the more permanent role. And things that are quite beneficial and things that we sort of look for when you come into the internship is just being aware of the field, aware of the data science field, and aware of like different aspects that are being developed, because as you might be aware, that field is always constantly changing, especially now when you have things like AI and discussions about how AI will be used within organizations. It's quite key to be on top of that. So I think a piece of advice that I might give is just to make sure that you are regularly checking up on things that are happening within the field, but also to make sure it's things you're interested in as well, because I think sometimes it might feel like a bit of a chore, but when you do it within something that you already have a passion for, it can sort of help sort of keep you going, I guess, with that. But yeah, I think that's one skill that I would highlight as being good to set yourself out.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of looking at it from a different angle, Mitu, in terms of GAWS, does that sound like skills that line up with what you do, or what would you say about it?
Yeah, so I mean, our graduate entry, we don't have any schemes, etc. You know, that we have two forms of recruitment, so mainstream and fast stream, depending on which one you prefer. But in either of those, really, we're looking for like a potential. So you're all brand new graduates. We don't expect you to come in with lots of experience. You know, we will train you to do that, but you have to have an aptitude to you know, doing analysis and analytical work, and that's largely what we're looking and testing. You know, can you think on your feet? You know, if you talk to us about certain techniques, you know, I always say, don't write anything on your form that you're not wanting to discuss, because I don't know you from Adam, so I don't know what you've done, and you know, and my colleagues don't. So if you've put something on there, it's not to, you know, it's not to trip anyone up. We're asking because we're genuinely interested as to your analytical background. So if you've written something on there, make sure you've at least brushed up on what you did and, you know, why you did it, etc. Because we probably will ask you, just because we're interested in that sort of thing, you know.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, would you say, perhaps Dave, would you say that in terms of skills, and I guess what Mitu and Sathajan have said in terms of when you're looking at CVs and you want to get to know the candidate, do you think you can grow those skills? Like as a student, can you develop those skills and improve them as well if you know that's what people are looking for?
Absolutely, because when you think about it, virtually all behaviours are learned behaviours. So we can learn any of those particular skills. And in answer to your question specifically, the original one, what I'd actually say is it's never written down as far as the job description is concerned. But when you go for an interview, show your personality. I was talking to a lady yesterday that deals an awful lot with recruitment and everything. The biggest thing that organizations are looking for at the moment is, as well as the academic side, it's the soft skills side. And part and parcel of going into any particular organization is, like I say, showing your personality, but also showing that you can get on with people. Because so many people are actually, you know, many people work on their own as far as work from home, etc. It depends on the organization. But ultimately, you're part of a team, and no one wants to recruit anyone that is actually going to be the bad apple. So when we've got personality and we can interact with everyone else in a supportive way, then that is an awful lot of what organizations are actually looking for, although that's never written down.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, isn't it, that, you know, I mean, to go into any organization and obviously focusing in on data science and OR, there will always be certain academic requirements or, you know, a mathematical degree, you know, reasons of entry, for example, to different graduate schemes or organizations. But it's interesting that we almost don't include in job descriptions things that, you know, and I know if I was doing an interview, things that you would think you do want, but you almost feel like you can't include them in the job description. So yeah, and I think it does definitely lean into the soft skill area. And yeah, if for example in OR and data science you have data and you need to present that data, then how do you do that effectively? How do you adapt that to the person that you're speaking with as well? You know, if you're presenting it to a certain team, it might be different to another team because they focus on different areas. So yeah, that's really insightful. And I mean, Stefano, do you have anything from sort of Southampton side? Do you see that students struggle with this or are confused when making applications as well sometimes?
Absolutely, every day. And indeed, one of the I would say crucial things that we try to teach here, and I myself try to teach as a first thing, is critical thinking. How you will use all these methodologies, these mathematical models, these mathematical reasonings that you will learn, how you would use, how can you transfer this, mechanism of rationalizing in a more organic, critical, evaluation of the situation where you are in, how you can adapt the presentation for this or that particular team based on the interests, but also on the what you have learned in your would say educational education phase of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, it makes sense that students, when you're going through putting in applications, it can also be confusing because, you know, you want to include the right skills on your CV. Often it's, you know, if you have a good CV, it can get you to the interview stage. And I think sometimes getting past that CV stage is the really tough part. And I'd like to talk about a little to do with artificial intelligence, because obviously, and from the talks just today, it's become clear that for quite a few companies now, where they think students can solve problems for them or really contribute is through bringing new technology or perhaps being faster to adapt to it or understand it. However, I also know, for example, on this panel, Mitu, Gauls, you know, National Audit Office, these organizations are also very high level in terms of like security and things like that. So how would you say, is AI something that you perhaps consider now during the hiring process? Is it something that you think you may have to consider more, or what do you think about that?
Okay, so at the moment, so we don't, because we set a few exercises, and we're trying to find out what you know and your aptitude, as in the candidate's aptitude. So no, they're not allowed to use AI through the exercises, because that sort of defeats the object of them sitting them. The other thing is, we haven't had very, it's not numerous examples of it, where they've been where it has been used, even though it says you're not allowed to use it, but it is obvious when you've done it, because ultimately the thing is, what we ask in both, whichever route you come through, we give you a situation, and you have to prepare like a 5-minute oral presentation, but we will ask follow-up questions on that oral presentation. So if you've used AI, you probably won't be able to answer the follow-up questions, and then your panel will know that, you know, you've listed all these things and you don't know the depth of it. So be careful. We're all quite experienced, so, you know, if it says don't use it, please don't use it. The other thing with interviews, I mean, to be honest, we're interested in you and what you know. We're not interested in what you don't know, because we can train you to do those things and fill those gaps. We just want to know what you have, you know, what experience you're bringing, what you can bring to the table should you pass. So when you do those interview questions, try and use I know it's hard, and and everybody's a little bit nervous. We're also nervous on this side of the table, just to say, but try and use that STAR format, you know, the situation, task, action, results. It helps to structure your answer, and don't give really lengthy answers, because the bits we're interested in, we will ask you a follow-up on that. So give us the basic stuff, and then we will ask you the bits that we want a bit more detail on, and not focus on the bits that we're not interested in a sense. So maybe, sorry, long-winded answer on AI, but
No, that's absolutely brilliant, and that's why I think it's so interesting, particularly in government, is how it's integrated and the rules around it. I think it's good for people to be aware of if they're considering applying to GAWS as well. But yeah, I mean, Sathajan, is it similar at NAO, or how is it there, or where are you at with the development of new AI technologies that emerge?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of, I guess, in terms of using AI for your application, I believe we allow it, but there's sort of limits for how much you can use it to, because we have like technical exercises. You can't just plug in data, because as Mithu mentioned, like it's quite easy and you're asked to defend yourself. It shows if you just plug data into AI to get an answer out. So we would sort of, we definitely encourage against just doing that. But we have had discussions about sort of how we can use AI to benefit our work and streamline our work, while also like mitigating the security risks I think you mentioned, Caitlin, because I think we sort of have an understanding of how we want to use it. And there's a lot of people within the organization who sort of found cool UI techniques and cool methods which could be useful to be used. I think there's also, like, we've had conversations with audit offices for other nations as well. So there's regular sort of catch-ups with other nations, and they're quite like for it. So I think some nations like Norway are quite heavily for AI and the use of AI within audit. But like we're still trying to battle out and figure out the security risk, but also because we work for government, it would have to be something that's trusted by sort of people as well, and sort of public, the public nature towards AI would have to be quite positive to allow us to use it as well. So it's a bit of like I think it's a field that's still developing. I think it's not just the technical side of it, but sort of the actual practical side of it as well is something that is still being discussed and fully laid out.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, I think it's really interesting seeing how different sectors, organizations, all are working with it. And then, like Mithu said, it's, you know, and when you're going to an interview, there are nerves or insights both sides. So it cannot be enjoyable on both sides if the person coming to the interview doesn't just be themselves as well and just explain. You know, I don't think any interview is there to catch you out. It is genuinely there to read information and sort of confirm you are who you say you are. So yeah, I think those are really good insights and interesting in terms of the rules on AI as well. And I think, you know, we've obviously talked about sort of following through the stages, I guess, around CVs, interviews. You know, Dave, I know you focused a lot during your talk in terms of like the actual confidence building for interviews. And I think what is interesting, so beyond that, if we focus on, say, you know, X candidate has started in an organization, whether that be GAWS, a consultancy, but in that first month or two, you know, what advice would you have to someone perhaps new on a graduate program? How do they fit into an organization? Like, how do they stand out and make their mark when they first join? I guess what would I guess what all of your advice would be on that, and we can go around. Dave, would you like to start this time?
Thank you. I didn't know whether you were going to target.
No, I know. This is the thing online. Yeah. Dave?
Right, thank you. I didn't realise I had a target on my back, but thanks for that, Caitlin. Realistically, it's the same with any particular scenario. What I would say is get to know people. Because everyone's different. You need to get to know them. They need to get to know you. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. You are unique, because you will view things totally different to the vast majority of people, because we all have a different way of looking at things. So get to know people, get them to know you as well, because that's key. Because if you want to start making an impression, when your name comes up in just general conversations, then you're going to get recognized for the right reasons. So be interesting for other people, and this applies for your interview as well, but also be interested in them. And that's the real key. Be interested in other people, because that's a sincere way of actually making your mark. And the reason why I say that is because there's so much about mental health these days, as we all know. And yet, how many times, this is something not to answer, but how many times have you started a conversation with someone that you possibly haven't met before, or indeed you haven't seen for a period of time, and they don't even ask how you are? So be interested in them. Ask them how they are. Ask them how work is. If the circumstances are right, obviously, then ask them a bit about their personal life as well, without going into things in too much depth. But once you do those, you're actually building your blocks there, and that is how to start to make an impression very, very quickly with the people that you're going to be working with.
I couldn't agree more on that, actually. And I think I have no idea who gave me this advice. I think I was probably like 17, 18. But I always remember someone saying to me, and this is going back to interviews, like when you go to an interview, never go to an interview with having 2 or 3 questions that you're definitely going to ask the interviewer personally about, like what they do, what's their story, do they enjoy where they work, because it needs to seem like a conversation, and that also shows you as confident going to the interview and that you've researched into the company, because you actually have things to ask them as well. And sometimes it also makes the interviewer think, which sticks in your mind when you're also the hiring manager sometimes, so it can make you stand out. So I think those are really good points. And also asking, like how people are, and just having that human element when you start somewhere, I think is really important. So yeah, thank you. And Stefano, what would you say in terms of, so like if you're in an organization in the first month or 2, what should students be doing to fit into that environment?
Yeah, well, Dave already said a lot. It's difficult to add more than that, to that, but I would add a couple of points. One is to show your colleagues that you are competent, and the second is showing colleagues and eventually your supervisor that you can do things properly, and you can lead, you can take lead on particular piece of the projects or whatever, where you can delivering concrete and good results. This is of course is outside the interpersonal relationship, but work-wise, this is the piece of advice I would give.
Yeah, great, thank you. And I guess in terms of at NAO or at GORS, is there anything that you think perhaps in particular in what you do, it might make it different, or how students can fit in when they first start, I guess?
Well, the main thing, ask questions. We all know you're new, so we don't expect you to know everything. So if you don't understand, genuinely, just ask. Then it doesn't matter if it's the second time you've asked. We'd much rather you ask and not do something wrong, because ultimately, in many of the things you will be doing, they will be they are impact. and the stuff that we do in government anyway, is impacting on people. So not that any of the models will go out before it's been thoroughly checked, but it's that sort of thing. If you don't understand, that's fair enough, because you're the newest person on that thing. Everybody else will be probably working on it at least 6 months or something. So ask questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question, because if you don't know, that means someone either hasn't explained it to you properly, or there was some bit that was missing. So do ask, and it shows also that it will A, consolidate your own understanding, and B, it shows that you're actually interested, because you've gone, well, I didn't quite make the link to that. Why is that? Always ask. I mean, I walk into meetings and go, right, can we just go a step back? Why? What is it that we're doing, and why are we doing that? And it's always a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree. Sathajan?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with this. I was just to add on to that, I think from personal experience as well, like sometimes, especially when I was starting out my internship, there were times when I felt maybe slightly embarrassed to ask a question, or felt like I was pestering people a bit too much with my questions. But in the end, by just delaying it, I think I actually kind of delayed and wasted a bit of time by not just asking the questions when they came up, and also like just chunking it up into smaller chunks. It's not as effective as, when I have all those questions, just laying them out at the start so that I can start on a project with the best idea I have. And I think that is something that is it took some time for me to learn as well, sort of just being open in that communication with management, but also with other people that I'm working on a project for. That's something that comes with time. I think comes with time, but if you're able to just be comfortable with that when you go in, I think it will definitely help you sort of get onto things much quicker and much faster than if you maybe weren't doing that. But I think to do that also sometimes requires a level of being self-reflective and self-conscious. I think you need to sort of be able to understand what point you're at relative to what might be expected, but also, what might be expected from managers, but also what you might expect from yourself. So I think being self-reflective and just sometimes being able to admit, like, I'm not where I'm at, just could I have some help with something? That's perfectly okay with when you start out. Like it's cool to do that, but yeah, basically.
Yeah, I think also when, we give advice on asking questions, and I think it's probably because at some point all of us, when we've started a new job, haven't, or have thought we were annoying after asking. And yeah, I think asking is always good. And and however long you do a role, if it's for a big project, it's good to check that with a colleague, or bring someone in on that. So I think, yeah, it's a really good life skill to have, to know when to get help as well, and ask about it. So yeah, thank you. That's really good insight, I think, for people to take away on what they should be doing when they actually start as well on a graduate program. Because it's one thing, and I think, like Mitu said, what is on your CV. So it's one thing during your CV and interview, and then when you actually start, it's like a process all over again, because you've suddenly got this job, but it may be your first full-time role. So I think, yeah, really good insight on that. And I guess one of the last areas, or the last area mainly, that I'd like to cover is for students when they come in on a graduate program or an internship or a job, particularly in OR and data science. In those sectors, there are incredibly ambitious, clever, intelligent people. So I guess, as a student, when you go in an entry role, you're going to be keen to progress, and do different things in your career and move up. So what I'd like to also chat about is what advice you have on progression. How long should students wait before they ask about that? What does a career path look like? Just a bit of discussion around, yeah, what progression looks like. And I guess Sathajan, we'll start with you this time. I'm trying to start with a different person every time.
Yeah, of course, no worries. Happy to start. So at the National Audit Office, in terms of progression, each employee is assigned to a performance coach. So this is usually it's someone who isn't your like line manager for your project, or someone who isn't sort of directly involved with your day-to-day work. It's someone who's a bit pulled out of that. So you can have these conversations about progression and about how your work is going comfortably without feeling like you're just complaining about the work you're getting given to the person who's giving you the work, because I think that can sometimes feel a bit like uncomfortable maybe to do. So we have performance coaches to help with that. And I think many places will have that sort of just a mentor sort of figure who might be might not be a direct manager. And I think it's good to have conversations with them about progression. Another thing as well, in civil service jobs, I think online there is, like, I'll get the exact wording for it. It's called Government Digital and Data Profession Capability Framework, which is like a sort of list of different data roles and each of the skills and competencies that are required for each level. So say, for example, if you're just a graduate, it will list what skills are required for that level. And then it will also list the skills that are required if you want to get a promotion to the next level. Because in civil service, the employment grades are quite standardized across different bodies and organizations. So I think this website is quite helpful to have for yourself as sort of like a tracker to check against to see, you know, which skills do I have? Do I meet these requirements to progress to the next level? Can I start thinking about that? Can I think about, you know, specializing in a particular field within data science? So yeah, I think that is definitely a good website and a good thing to have if you are working within a civil service job. But it also just helps even if you're not, if you're in a private sector job, it's still helpful, I think, but might just not be directly applicable.
Great. Yeah, that's really insightful actually. And I wasn't aware myself around the data lists and things like that with civil service. So yeah, thank you for that. And Stefano, in terms of universities, what sort of advice do you give students around, you know, going on to graduate programs, but then also progressing and furthering their career through that process?
Yes, of course, I can speak about academic progressions. So these are kind of very, I would say, very tricky. It's a very tricky matter because it requires different, you know, aspects to be addressed. So first of all is research. You have to be good researchers. You have to have publications. You have to be kind of internationally recognized as being a good researcher. And after that, there is all the teaching, and you have to be a good teacher, and you have to inspire your students. And after, of course, there is the outreaching activities. Oh, I have a very bad return in my right. And so the advice I would say I would, you know, give to prospective student who is willing to engage with a career in academia is to start from you know, day one, to build their network of people who trust you, I would say, as a researcher, as a person. And when you do that, all the rest will come very, very quickly.
Thank you. And Dave, I mean, I guess thinking of it from a sort of confidence and growth angle, you know, how do you balance that between, I guess, having eagerness, but also, I guess, learning as you go along? And what would you say about progression?
Yeah, it is a great question, because obviously everyone's different, and you know, there are so many people that I know that have actually started off down one particular career but found out it's not for them. So when it comes to progression, the first question I was asked is, what's your passion? You know, what is it you're really passionate about? Because it may not be, you know, the pigeonhole that we've actually started off in. It may well be something different. And there's some great answers already, and obviously every particular organization is different. So if you, you know, have something that you're really passionate about, you know someone that is already doing it, then take some time out with them. Take them out for a coffee or something along those lines. Pick their brains. Find out what they did, because that could actually, in effect, condense decades into days. by utilizing their experience and potentially copying their route to get where you want to get to. Because once we know, I will say, the systems and how the systems work, then it's so easy to then apply by those particular systems so we can actually get the results quicker. But ultimately, it's going back to what I was saying a bit earlier on. It's getting to know people to start off with, and realistically having the belief in yourself to go for it. Because again, everyone's unique. You know, we all have different qualities that we can bring to the table, and sometimes those particular qualities have not been witnessed before because we are so special. So I'd find a mentor, take them out, let's say, and have a chat and find out how they did it, and then model that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, the idea around actually, you know, picking people's brains and asking questions, it comes back to what we were saying before, you know, just having that openness and getting to know people, I think goes a long way, and also links into career progression, because, you know, then you have more relationships and know more people in a business. So I think, yeah, really good points. And Mithu, I guess in terms of goals, you know, what does the career progression look like there, and what can students expect if they work there?
Okay, so I've just put it in the chat, actually, the goals, similar to what you were saying. So we have our own technical framework, not to be different from everybody else, but you can see, you know, what's required at the various grades. There is no such thing as a typical career progression. Everybody, you know, apart from if you're on the fast stream, because that is an accelerated leadership program. So that is to get you to sort of team leader level, which is
Right.
which we call grade 7, within sort of a 3.5-year program. So if you do that, that is an accelerated leadership program. There are fast stream programs throughout government, but if you are not on the fast stream, then your career progression is your own. You are in charge of, you know, what you do when you do it. Everybody's trajectory is slightly different. You know, I've gone off, had 2 children, and I've taken a career break, etc. So however, whichever department you're in, you will have regular career chats. So we in GAWS, we have to maintain a CPD log, which is called a career professional development log. We have to do 100 hours pro rata each year of development. Half of that has to be technical, half non-technical. So when they go and help at the conferences and things, and when they come to our society events and help with those, that all goes down on our CPD log. If you are, you know, and you should, in most departments, I mean, in HMRC, we have quarterly chats. They vary depending on which department you're at. But with your line manager, you should be having regular chats in terms of your career and what you know, a bit like going back to what Dave was saying, you know, what are you interested in outside of your general day-to-day, what you're doing, plugging in, whatever. If you're interested in certain things, or if you know, are interested in a particular technique or joining, we have also in GAWS, we have many interest groups. So we have a systems thinking group, so that all of these things are available to you. But your career progression, if you feel that once you've looked at the technical framework and you are, I don't know, you need, in order to plug the gap to get to the next level, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. Talk to your line manager, see if you know, are there means and ways of getting you that experience so that you can, you know, apply for the next grade. But that, you know, that should be a regular conversation. It's not.
Great, thank you. And yeah, that's great that the links are in the chat as well, so people can be aware of, yeah, the different grades and goals that they could have if applying to GAWS or National Audit Office. And yeah, I think, you know, as a whole, I don't think anyone's career necessarily looks the same as probably a colleague's, or, you know, it's all different processes along the way. But yeah, I would like to thank you all as well for all your contributions this week at different talks. And thank you for joining on the panel as well. I just thought it would be a really good resource for students to look back on as well, and combine some of the learnings from the whole week. So yeah, thank you so much, Stefano, Safajan, Dave, Mithu. So lovely to see you all. Thank you for sharing so much insight and detail on like what you're doing, what your organisations are. It's so interesting. And yeah, if obviously anyone online, the recordings will be made available, and I believe some slides are going to be sent around as well. So please just contact us if you have any questions. we're more than happy to help you. And I think anyone that's spoken this week as well. So yeah, just let us know, and the presentations and all the recordings will go up for all the student network. So lots of people can see it as of when they need it. So yeah, thank you so much. Thanks to our panelists. Thank you to all the students who have come on at different points this week. And I shall bring Career Week to a close, even though it's Thursday.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you very much indeed. Take
Thank
care,
you.
everyone.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.